sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, it's Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, it's plus the world's best quiz. Carbs, PWA, we're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
I forgot to advertise it on Insta Spammer.
Ooh,
oh, bad boy! I was just trying to do it now in that long intro, but I didn't make it. So
this is how casual we're getting.
So if I do end up looking like I'm on my phone, I'm trying to, give us some more viewers
as usual.
But welcome back to everyone out there. We are here with the what are we here with? The windsurfing chat. I think we literally are going to do a windsurfing chat. I nearly came up with the thumbnail like windsurfing is dead, like some full clickbaity thing. And then we were going to open the show and go, there's no way it's dead. Windsurfing is fully alive right now. But I decided against it.
As long as you're alive, Benny, windsurfing's alive, man.
We are alive. I tell you what, and I'm not joking. I feel the opposite. Like there's doom and gloom around, but I am seeing genuinely more excitement for windsurfing, and I'm feeling it. I feel it. When you're a windsurfing TV, you feel the ebbs and the flows of the industry and the people. And I'm getting more interest at the moment with competitions, with people sending in stuff, with speed. I'm feeling it. I am. I don't know. I think I've put it down to one thing. It's obvious.
What do you think? Your videos. All the effort that you've done. What is it?
It's not that. It's not that. It's way bigger.
My videos.
It's bigger than me and you. It's massive. It's invisible.
What is it? The death of kiting.
The invisible force that is the wind is back. The wind is back. I tell you, that is the difference. Like, you want to keep windsurfing alive. You want to keep the wind sports alive. Just give us wind and sun. You don't even need sun. Just wind. Having wind changes the feel in the windsurfing industry, changes the feeling at the beach. Like, I'm lucky because I've just had that week of sailing back in the UK. But you could just feel day by day, and the longer it goes on, it's like if you haven't windsurfed for ages, you've got family commitments, you're doing this, like a couple of days of wind, it's easy to dismiss them. Like, yeah, whatever, just a couple of days of wind. After a week, after 2 weeks, you start to get a bit like, it's still windy. And then you start talking about it more. Then you see videos coming up, and then, and you start to get motivated. We need wind.
So when you say we're having wind, are you talking about Portugal, or you
I feel like the world has got wind right now. That's my
whole
feeling.
world's windy.
Like, well, Europe is going into autumn. This time of year, September, October is like the really good bit. It's still warm from the summer. The water's still warm. The wind starts to come back. The waves appear. Australia, it's the start of the season in your summer season. Where the trades come back. Up north works in Western Australia, for example. The Canaries, in theory, dies down at this period, but weirdly, they've had a later summer, so they've had wind. Like this early September's been good. Maui starts to get some waves back. The wind's always there.
Good point, actually, isn't it? Is that a good time of year? I guess it's certainly starting to pick up here. It's just warmed up. It was cold a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden it's 30 degrees, and there's some wind on the. There's wind around.
If you're bringing out new gear now, this is when you want it in the brands. They want to be going bang, because this is when you're excited. This is when you're like, ooh, a bit of excitement coming, And I do like this time of year. It's my favorite time of year.
And you said that, so you're feeling a bit of a good energy, are you, with windsurfing at the moment? Are you? Is that you're getting a bit of feedback? What's happening? Are you just noticing something? Or?
When I say that, I mean, obviously things line up and can be just my experience, but usually I kind of get that feel. But I generally feel people are sending me stuff. That could mean it's just windy, but that also creates this good feeling. you know, obviously went to the UK. I've talked about it a fair bit. There was 80 people entered in the competition. Like in a wave sailing competition, the students coming through. I saw like all the young pros, which I was talked about in these videos. If you've watched them, you'd be like, okay, here he goes again. But I feel like there's people like windsurfers have kids a bit older. I feel like that's happened. So it's took a while for the next generation to come through. But I feel like they're coming through. Like I'm seeing lots of, you know, even just people in my circles, kids are getting to that age where they're either going surfing, windsurfing, or picking something to do. And they're getting pushed a little bit. So that's kind of interesting with this new sort of crop. And I think, I just think it's a good time. I heard it in your video. It's a good time to be a windsurfer. I mean, it's like off the video, off of whatever it is.
Well, I tried. Yeah, I do feel that way. Certainly in my life, windsurfing is probably just about the funnest it's been now, and a lot of it's to do with the gear. You know, it's awesome, and it's it's just, I don't know, it's a funny sport, isn't it? It's just it's such a interesting.
What I will say, we do need more younger crew coming through, because I looked at like we've obviously
we're getting on a bit.
My new post.
I was actually going to ask you about that. That's awesome. That's when you came back, eh?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That looks like a lot of Vilma's influence in that.
Well, there's a bit of Vilma's influence. You know, my Rihanna's only 3, but she did help color it in. You can see the bits that she did.
No, it's actually super. It's amazing. I like the it's like what are you doing? Like I don't know. Oh, yeah, exactly. Backwinded.
Wave 360 off the lip.
That's pretty sick, isn't it? I love that. You could don't make sure you keep that. You could almost frame it.
It's going to be there. That's my new backdrop.
Addy. We can't see the D on Daddy.
Yeah, it just says Addy. Daddy champion. No, it's only because on the WhatsApp conversations with Vienna, and she was going, Daddy champion. Just
I saw that on your Instagram.
So she made a poster.
Actually, there's a few things to talk about this week, isn't there? That was one of them. Yeah, your win.
But where I was going with that, which is sad, because someone made a comment, like an older windsurfer who used to be a freestyler, very good, but he's now, you know, family, big businessman, Jacob Kosmowski, if you're out there, and he made a comment like, you know, my God, the old guys are still there. And it was like a bit of a jealousy comment. He even mentioned, oh, okay, maybe I'm jealous. But like, is there no young guys coming up? And it is true, because I had a memory on my phone the other day, which is a bit, it does make me go, yeah, he's got a point. In 2011, I think it was, which came off my phone, it was the same order at the Ross Niger Wave Classic. Me winning, Phil in second, and Bubble in third.
And that's wow. 2000 years ago. That's amazing.
It's mad, isn't it?
Wow. That's pretty cool. What were the young crew thinking when you won? Did anyone roll their eyes and oh, here we go, Ben just blows in and wins it? Was there any of that, or everyone was pretty stoked?
You think about these things, but windsurfing's a friggin' tricky sport, you know, and I'm obviously a die-hard windsurfer, but I put a lot of work in those early days. So to catch up that in windsurfing isn't friggin' easy. You know, Paré and these guys and Marino, you know, the younger guys coming through, you know, Paré's obviously done a lot of traveling, a lot of spending time. Marino lives in Pozo. You know, to get good at windsurfing, you really got to put hours and hours and hours. And you see it with the guys, even when you think, maybe this guy's not so talented, but after how many years of just pushing, you obviously can get to a certain level. But it ain't easy to catch that level up, especially, as I was saying to a few people, it's not just the level. There was there's a lot of good guys, like Lucas Meldrum is one of the young guys. He actually finished 4th. You know, he's unlucky in the final, the waves dropped, but there's obviously a lot of skill in competing as well. Like even with the young crew in Maui and, you know, the other guys coming through, Kevin Pritchard won the Aloha Classic, or at least won the single, I think, a fair few years ago, but he was cracking on a bit then as well. You know, Robbie Nash was up in 5th at the Aloha Classic. You know, when it's wave sailing, it's not a sport which suffers from, you know, like running, sprinting. You're not going to see a 45-year-old sprinter, you know, taking down the whatever championships, because younger is better in those sports. But in windsurfing,
unless you're Kelly Slater.
Yeah, Kelly Slater. But Kelly Slater, again, he's from one of them sports where experience and wave selection and reading and competitive skills make a big difference. You know, the age is not as big a factor. You know, Antoine Albo in racing, you could say, oh, there's no young guys coming up, but he is still fit, or he was. You know, he's obviously older now, but there was a bit when he was in his later 40s, he was as good as he ever was.
Yeah,
you know, maybe better. So speed, you know, there's certain sports and certain disciplines that I think you can get away getting a bit older. So
yeah. Well, I think as you get older, you hope that you get a bit you know, smarter with experience of how to handle things as well. You know, I guess with wave sailing, there's a bit of a tactical aspect to it all as well, isn't it? It comes with experience. So,
sure. You need experience and the way you sail, the way you think, the way you read situations. You've been there before. It takes a while. You see it in football. You know, footballers who maybe start off as wingers or whatever, they sort of drift back into the middle of the park where they can use their brain a bit more, and it's not just about running around like a headless chicken. Which
that's it.
You know,
that's
definitely not my skill.
But the whole vibe of that event looked awesome. You know,
like the UK is got a good scene. There's no two ways about it. I mean, it's a little island, really, surrounded by water. It is a great place to windsurf. I've been living in Portugal for I don't know how long, and I still have had, you know, much better sessions probably in the UK. I've spent a lot more time there, but the conditions in the UK with so many different angles and different wind directions you get can offer some amazing sailing. The problem is you can go 4 months without sailing. Maybe you don't get any wind, that sucks. And it's cold in the winter. But in terms of actual sailing when you get it, I think the UK is, if we had some starboard tack competitions, or the world, you know, the world tour had been starboard tack in the early days, you would have seen a lot more British sailors doing the world tour, because there was a lot of South Coast boys who starboard tack. You know, if they'd have had more competitions in Morocco or Guincho and stuff, you would have seen them challenging, because there was a lot of port tack only guys who were coming from the Canaries in the World Cup for that big chunk when I was there. And I'm obviously more port tack biased as well, but there's a lot of guys in the UK on starboard tack that are absolutely really, you know, talented sailors, super talented.
You said there was 80. Do you know how many came last year?
I don't know. What I do know is I haven't been to the, you know, UK comps for a while, and, you know, going back, it felt like there's a new impetus. There's a few new guys that are pushing, you know, like in all these things. It's like you with the Wave Rally or whoever. You need someone driving. You need, you know, people will join in, but you need a driving force. It's same with windsurfing TV. It's like what I think of my role in the windsurfing world. You need somebody driving forward, and you collect people on the way. You know, they like the energy, they follow that energy. And I feel like there is a bit of new energy, you know, like people change positions. Everyone has always done a good job, but I think there's a lot more people now, let's say with kids who are coming up, who see that's give them extra reason to help and to put their time in and put their effort in, because they want their kids to have something to aim for. And I think that's a good driving force. And I'm sure when my kids get older, you know, around here, I will definitely be doing more stuff. It's just natural. You're going to want to put that energy in and get other kids involved, because, you know, you see it with the students, even though I ignored her email far too many times, I apologize. They're trying to do some crowdfunding at the moment. I just hate asking for too much money. I always feel like I'm asking for money. But they've got this crowdfunding thing in the student association in England at the moment, whereas if they raise a certain amount of money, I think it's like nearly 10 grand, then the government will match it. So it's a pretty cool thing to do. And then they can have new equipment for all the students and stuff like this. So, you know, there was a good turnout from the students in that scene as well. And I think that's a great age group to get. You know, it's all right having the young kids, but you want them to carry it on through that, you know, that years where partying and stuff, jobs and everything comes in, you know.
Definitely.
Hang on, I got a bit of a power issue. 2 seconds.
All right. How about everybody listening? Is there wind? Is Benny correct? Is there wind where you are? What's happening here in Geraldton? It is just starting. So Definitely, it's starting to happen here. All good?
Back online. Yeah, I was thinking that might just drop out.
80 is I've noticed 80. I mean, look, if you get 50 or 40 or 60, they're all good numbers. But if you get 80 people at an event, it feels pretty substantial, doesn't it? Like it's a good, because it's not just about the, there's entrance, but then, there's
it's almost too many. I'll be honest. To get a wave sailing competition done in the normal format, which is like ladders and man-on-man heats and doing it fairly, it's difficult. They were really lucky to get a result in all the disciplines. They had dingles and they wanted to get some doubles in, but the wind on the last day went a bit funky. But it's not easy to do it. It's not easy to do it. So you do need a good forecast. I mean, talking of good forecasts, we have got Sylt coming up. Which is quite interesting. Have you been following the World Tour, Mr. Paul Van Bellen?
Well, I followed every event, but obviously today we were going to talk a bit about Sylt because it'd be good for me to have a refresher about the rankings, and I haven't looked at any forecasts or anything like that. Do you want me to bring it up on Wind Guru, or are you going to do that?
Yeah, I was just trying to do it now. So you can see my brain like going, Brandenburg Strand. That's the one. Now, I won't lie, looking at this, the forecast is a bit funky. Let's have a look. Share the screen.
Funky.
That
Not
is
like
what we've got at the moment. So, Sylt this year is shorter. Usually it starts on the Friday and finishes on the Sunday. This year it starts on the Saturday and finishes on the Saturday. But look at this.
So, hold on. What's the date range for the event?
Look
From when? Saturday's oh my God.
Saturday, 27th to the 4th, I think it is. But look at this, 64.
What? That's like a hurricane.
That's in midday on Saturday next week. I mean, it's a long way away. Will it happen by then? Maybe not. But usually Sylt was going to Sunday. So this would have been an amazing period or crazy period. But it is going to be Friday, Saturday. But that is hell windy, isn't it? 47 with gusts of 64 knots.
That's insane. That is weird. I can't. What do you even rig when it's that windy? When you guys were in Pozo for the mega windy event, what did that gust to?
That's windier because it's also it's not like the Canaries, so it's
more gusty and stuff. Yeah, but how windy was it in Pozo? What did it gust to that event?
It's got to be 50 odd knots, I think. At one point, it was crazy.
Wow, 50 knots. That's a lot. Geez, that'll be interesting. So hold on. Can we just go back to the start of the event? What did you say? There was some wind at the start?
Okay, so it's not a great forecast because this is more like foiling, because obviously we've got the foiling. We haven't seen it all year. We had that foiling events at the beginning, and then since then we haven't had any action. So it's been like a kind of summer off for the foilers, and then they're going to be kicking back into action in Sylt, and they're going to be doing a hard week by the looks of it. Because it's southeast. Southeast. Yeah. Southeast.
Well, that's like a perfect foiling forecast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like offshore. There's winds. It'll be interesting. It's relatively sunny, no rain, so that's quite nice in Sylt. For racing especially, and the racing, because we've got all the drones. I assume, as what I was told, they're going to have the big TVs on the beach. So the guys on the beach are not peering through the binoculars trying to work out what's happening, but they will have all the TVs on the beach and they're able to get all into it. So I think it'll be really interesting this year. So it looks like a week at the moment of racing. Obviously, early days and things can change a lot. And then it looks like by Friday, which is not bad. We've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, maybe some freestyle. Who knows? And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's all kind of like relatively offshore. It goes quite south there, which might work out. That could be.
So hold on, just to be south, is that cross shore or
it's more port tack? So it's still onshore or side. Maybe south is like side.
Oh, is that port tack? Is it in south? I thought it was the other way around. Is it okay? Is the beach facing? Which way is the beach facing?
Good question. It's facing out to obviously to
not like
west.
Oh,
like west is bang on shore. Like
is
west
it? Oh, that's interesting. I always thought, I didn't know. For some reason I thought it was facing east, more east. It's actually facing west, is it? Oh, okay. I've never been there, so
I'll show you.
Yeah, I should look at the map. For some reason I thought it was the other way around. Oh. That forecast on the 4th, my God. I mean, even if it doesn't come in at that, it's still, even if it's 40 knots or 50
It is crazy.
What is that going to mean? That's going to blow the event away. If they're that strong, like God, 60 knots is actually like that's damaging winds.
It's great. It's ridiculous, honestly. Again, it's early days, so will it carry on? Probably not. But there looks like there's something out there, so we could end up with it coming earlier, which could be crazy. Maybe, I mean, it could be amazing. So we don't know what we're going to get, but what we do know is there's something there, and that is what we want to see. We want to see something, because if it's east all week, so that is Sylt. It doesn't look very good here because this is basically, you can only get a train, but that is Sylt, the island. It's just in this view.
That's so weird. I don't know why.
That's what it basically looks like. So you can only get to this by ferry or train. You can't like drive to it. You have to get on the train. Right. So Brandenburg Strasse is here, I think. There.
I think that's where I got confused, because because it's an island. I just couldn't work out which side it was.
Yeah, so this is pretty much Sylt.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is where we have the World Cup, basically, right here.
You know why I thought that is because every time you see drone imagery or whatever aerial photography of Sylt, they always have the aspect from the other way around. You know what I mean? They always have it.
Yeah.
So I always have it in my head that what they're looking at is north. So you know what I mean? Like I'm always thinking it's that.
You're thinking that way is north.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? Like they don't.
The thing is, south is an amazing forecast for Sylt. If it comes in south, it's like slightly like down the line. Southwest is a kind of cross onshore, port tack. West is bang onshore, and then northwest is a hint of starboard tack, basically. So if we go back to that forecast from before, we can.
Here's a forecast.
We go back to that forecast from before. This southeast is pretty much offshore. Cross offshore. So that's when we do a lot of racing. Like all this type of forecast here is like the offshore racing, sunny usually, and it's usually quite nice for racing, but they're racing quite far offshore, but with the drones still good. And then as we get into this south here, this can be interesting if there's a wave around, but this is a great forecast. It's
Friday.
And then that obviously goes very onshore through the night. And then that is like, well, no, that's even in the day. So that's kind of terrible.
Just onshore.
60 knots onshore.
Imagine the shore break on that day. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then we can't, there's no competition. You look at next week after it.
It's windy.
It's a shame, like one of them ones. So we have to hope that this whole section here from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday maybe moves. But just looking as it starts with south and finishes with north, we're right close to the middle of the low as they're predicting it. But it's a long way away. You're not going to be able to predict that far anyway.
No.
That's over a week away. So there's no chance it's going to stay exactly like that. But it gives us an indication that, that's Cyrus. It gives us an indication of what exactly they're headed for.
It's a comment here from Vino related to Sylt. Are they trying to squeeze in too much during Sylt? It is it's not a huge window, is it?
No, and it's smaller this year. I mean, I'm guessing it's to save costs or, to...
Oh, so the window's actually been narrowed, has it?
Yeah. It was Friday, and they finished on Sunday, so we've lost 2 days, which is
and you haven't heard why?
Well, I think I should check that. I'm saying we've lost 2 days. Maybe we've lost 1 day, but I'm pretty sure because I'm flying home on the Sunday, and usually we are, we don't sometimes go home till the Monday because we finish late on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So Sylt is 26. I'll take the 5th. Maybe I've booked the wrong ticket.
You better make sure you're there, Benny.
Okay.
If you're not there, we've got a problem.
That's not right. That's not what I got told. Hang on a minute. You're seeing this live that I booked the wrong ticket. Okay. Well. Okay. Well,
it's going to be, that's an interesting forecast. I kind of want to see it go crazy just from a entertainment point of view, but I don't know if it'll eventuate.
Yeah. Slightly worried right now. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. Right, okay.
What have you done, Benny?
Oh dear.
Oh no, have you found something?
No, I'm fine.
You've heard it here first.
Okay. It's okay, guys.
Where you flying to?
Oh my god. Yeah. I've got to get the train. I was a disaster. Everyone else is flying straight into Sylt. I'm like flying into Hamburg. And then I've got to get the train. I was trying to save all the money, and then I realized I've stitched myself up. Yeah. Okay. Just well, okay. Right. Let's have a look at the rankings. That's what we need to do just before I lose this.
Rankings. I've actually. Have you got rankings? Because I've actually
arriving Friday the 26th. Last working day is Saturday the 4th. Okay, so it is the last day is 4th. Yeah, so leaving Sunday, and we arrive on the Friday. So it's basically the 27th to the 4th. So right. maybe they're just counting out the other days, but they still don't want to say the event is still on. But it means the sailors are not competing, so they'll be there to do autographs or whatever the feeling might be, maybe, and they can have a party on the Saturday night.
It's a good party there.
It can be, yeah, it can be. There's a lot of wine, food stands. I mean, it's a great spectacle. Like to go to Sylt is a.
I'm gonna have
someone
to go
explained it to me. A German explained to me like it's like the sporty version of the Oktoberfest. So it's like the end. Basically, what they do it for is like their end of season kind of hurrah. Like,
yeah, right.
Sylt is obviously a German island where people go for weekends throughout the summer. They do surfing there. It's like a really cool vibe, but it's quite high end. And this is kind of the last kind of one before the winter. It doesn't close for winter, but it kind of does. Like, not many people are off there in the depths of winter, to sun themselves on a cold beach. So this is kind of like the last chance to kind of get everyone together and get people there and probably make some money, I guess, and make the most of it and kind of say goodbye to Sylt till the next year. I guess that's kind of how it's looked at. A lot of people do that. Windsurfing fits really well with those end of season kind of events, because it extends the season, let's say, a little bit longer. And the Germans are into it. It's pretty cool to see. They're all dressed up in their coats, their hats. They're standing out there, literally standing in the water, cheering people on and stuff. So it's pretty cool.
I like it. It looks very well organized, and it looks pretty cool. Shall we start with? Well, I've got here the foil slalom men ranking, so I guess we'll start there. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look. My eyesight's bad, so I'm going to have to go on the website as well.
Oh, okay. You can't see that.
I've literally gone downhill.
Oh yeah, it happens, at our age.
Oh, don't talk. I don't even talk about it. I'm not upset with it. So we've had one event so far, basically.
Yeah.
Matteo Iachino obviously smashed it. I think he won every race, didn't he? Was it something like that? I'm trying to think. I think he won every elimination or something bonkers.
Wow.
Yeah, my brain is just obviously playing a few tricks on me. But am I imagining that? It's been so long. That's the kind of weird thing this year. There's such a difference between the beginning of the year and now, which that's been it. So Matteo Yuchino, yeah. So they had 3 eliminations in Guadeloupe, and he won every round. But he won every round, not just every elimination. He won every heat he was in. So it was kind of crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Obviously, Pierre Mortefon, second, with second, and a second. So the top 2 were really, dominant in that. And obviously the big news since that event is Pierre Mortefon is no longer on Phantom equipment.
Yeah, so that's everything, huh? Including the foils.
Yeah, he was on for foiling, he was on boards and sails. For slalom, he was on FMX boards and Phantom sails.
But for the foils as well, right?
Yeah, the foils as well. So everything's changed now. So we've seen in the Slalom X, obviously he ended up going on Neil Pride for Tenerife, and then it didn't really change the result. It actually probably worked out good for him. Pride's, notoriously a little bit more powerful than probably the Phantom. So it actually worked out, not on purpose, but it worked out a good switch. And he carried on. He obviously won that Slalom X discipline to world champion again for 2025. And then in the foiling, no one really knew where he's going, but it's pretty obvious. He's on FMX boards for slalom. And I know Finian did a lot of helping him out when that whole thing was happening in the summer, trying to find out rules and how it could all work. And he managed just to, keep him on Phantom sails for Furta, because there was certain in the rules, if the notice of race had already been done, then they couldn't kick him off. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, which I know Finian helped a lot with. But he is now obviously got him on the foil boards as well. So Pierre will be on FMX foil boards, and I'm guessing he's going to be on Neil Pride sails for this event in Sylt.
What about the foils themselves? What will be on?
Good question. I actually don't know that. I would just guess Patrick, because the Aeon foil, the Patrick foil, has been going so well. So it would kind of make sense, but I haven't heard that officially. It might have been said, he might have mentioned it, but I just haven't followed that news. I'll do my sort of bit of research before we kick off in Sylt and obviously know all that. But for this podcast, I should just look on his social media. It'll probably be pretty easy.
How many of these guys, say the top 10, will be using the Patrick foils, you think? Like quite a few, because
it's quite a few.
It's quite a few. I like that. That's
it should say usually.
Well, it doesn't it doesn't say here.
Well, Matteo is on Patrick, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Pierre was on Phantom. Because I think Matteo was on Z foils, but I'm pretty sure he's on Patrick now, or the Aeon foil. Alexander Kuzan is on the Patrick foil. Jordy Vonk, I'm pretty sure, was on the Patrick foil. Is the one guy who wasn't on it. He was still on the Z foil, I think. Maciej Rakowski, I think he actually changed in the end to Patrick foil. Alexis Mattis, not sure. Maybe he was on the Phantom. I'd have to check that. William Hooper, obviously on the Patrick foil. Benoit Mercer, not sure. Sam Struesmar, not sure. But there's a lot. There is a lot. They've done really well with that foil, especially as you go to the lower down ones as well. There's a lot in there.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it, to see the domination of that brand with the
what is also interesting is Sylt has notoriously been the time for sponsorship changes and everything happening, and people getting headhunted. Let's say the little, but it hasn't happened so much in recent years because of the way the brands are and the budgets and everything else. So it would be interesting to see if we are going to see any big changes this year in Sylt, or we're going to see people getting tapped up. Last year I know Andrea Cookie was tapping up a few people. In the end, he went with Amado Vrieswijk, who's been definitely worthwhile getting on the team, because he has showed some real good stuff in the fin and the foil, obviously. And it'll be interesting to see how he finishes the season, because Johan So obviously did not stay on 0.7, went over to Patrick or for everything, because he wanted to do the IQ foil stuff. And obviously Patrick have now got their own IQ foil stuff, even though it's exactly the same. It's all badged up as Patrick. So that was kind of one of the big moves over the winter. So yeah, will Johan So be in Germany? I would imagine so.
I've got a couple of questions about the riders themselves because you're so involved, Benny. For you, it comes second nature. But for me, sitting on the outside looking in, if I look at the list here, we got Matteo and Pierre, which obviously I'm very familiar with now. You see them all the time up there on the podium. Alexandre Cousin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see his name. I'll be honest, I don't know him very well. Like I don't. Yeah. What's his story? Where's he from?
Alex has been around a long time. He's not one of the biggest fellas. You know, he's relatively tall, but he's not a massive, thick set guy. So he's done very well in the sort of racing side of it before. When it first switched over into foil, he was one of the early movers, was doing really well. He's always been up there. You know, even in the Finn stuff, he's been there or thereabouts, really consistent, good racer, you know, got good speed, but he's not the Bruno Martini of the sort of run, but definitely in the racing side of it and the lighter wind stuff. Actually all the wind stuff. He's very consistent. He's always been knocking around. You know, he's been on podium.
And this might be obvious. He's French, right? I mean, the name's French. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not like he's from Guadeloupe or something. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, his sister was obviously world champion a few times, won events, which was Delphine Cousin. So kind of got the family out there. But he's been on Patrick for a good amount of time now, was just on the boards and then obviously swapped to the sails. So he does quite a lot of the development. And he's been, you know, a big part of that Patrick brand.
Oh, here we go. I just clicked on it now. I can actually see something. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's been around a long time, but he's not, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't often see him like on the top 3 leaderboard very often, do you? Or is it?
No, he's been knocking around top 10s for a while, but he has been on the podium before. Especially I said, in the early foil stuff, he was knocking around, you know, world title maybe, you know. Especially in the early, there you go, 2018, third in the foil in Korea, and then 2019 he was vice world champion, so second in the world in the early foil stuff. So that was when it was more racing rather than slalom. You know, when it goes towards slalom, you obviously need to be bigger and heavier to hold it down, but then we're moving, you know, through that now. The equipment's changed a bit, everything's getting dialed in, and we might see some lighter weight guys doing a little bit better, but it definitely still suits the heavier guy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. No, that's cool. And then what was the other one? So Geordie Vonk, I think we're pretty familiar with Geordie.
He's going well this year. I think he's still got room. Like he's got a win in him. I'm sure he has. You know, obviously he just had a second kid, so I know how that is. He's probably feeling the pain right now, but he's got the speed. I think he looks more set up this year on his equipment. You know, we saw him in the Slalom X. He looked in really good
form. I thought he was going to almost win the whole thing, and before he had,
he could have.
Before he had the accident.
You know? So I think Geordie is definitely is one to watch. You know, you couldn't count him out. But Matteo feels like he's gone up a level this year in the foiling. Looked really comfortable in Guadeloupe. Again, was it a one-off? Was it just that event? We'll find out. You know, was it those conditions that just suited him totally, or is his foiling stuff just totally pumping this year and he's got that extra edge? And that will be interesting to see, because it wasn't easy to be consistent over in Guadeloupe, and he was.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see Geordie having a great year. Amado Freesweek, he's always up there. Again, I guess I'm just going through the list of the people that I'm familiar with.
I think Amado's another one. We've seen him win competitions. He's kind of always feels a bit all or nothing, which is great to watch, but he needs some more consistency. You know, there's been a few mistakes creeping in, but he's got the speed. I mean, like I said, he's won Sylt before, so he's won back-to-back PWA foiling events. He's got what it takes, but there's something that just quite hasn't dialed in yet. He's one of the best racers out there. He's got the speed, but there's just been a few too many mistakes. So, but again, he's really exciting to watch, which is what I liked.
This is a great shot, this one.
Yeah, amazing.
That's
people
cool.
don't like the jump.
Yeah, how could they not like that jump?
Hard to not like it, isn't it?
No, I think most people like it. But yeah, Amado. Also with Amado, you know, he would be in the running for being pretty much the best all-round windsurfer currently, really, isn't it? Because he's bloody good at so many things.
Very interesting, because I was just speaking to my man George. We've been doing this skill tracker, which basically will end up with a world ranking. And I was just saying to him, I was like, look, we're probably the first guys that are going to be able to rank. It's not going to be easy to do, but let's just say it all works. We're going to be the first guys that are going to be able to rank an overall kind of level, because it's going to rank speed, freestyle, wave sailing all in one place. And it will be interesting if we can get all the top guys to fill it in. Will be interesting to see who's up there. We're going to have a play around with it. It isn't easy to rank it like this. But that's a whole new podcast I'll do. But I think it's exciting to see once we give like each discipline, let's say speed, we give, wave sailing, wave jumping, wave riding, freestyle. When you give it all equal sort of footing, if what happens and who is the kind of best all-round guy. And I'm quite looking forward to it playing out. But yeah, Amado is definitely one of those guys.
He'll be up there.
All the skills, 100%.
Maciek Rakowski, obviously, I think we're all pretty familiar with Maciek. Actually, this is a good. Huh?
I was going to say we have to mention he's just done that crossing. He looked a broken man. Has he recovered in time? Has he got any? I haven't spoke to him actually since, or in depth anyway. Because he's going to be an interesting one to talk to in Sylt if we have any down days or we have some interview stuff. It's going to be we'll have to get him on to have a talk about that, because there are a few of the guys. I know Bob has just released his documentary of his travels that he did last year, or the year before, where it was basically traveling from Holland to the UK and back again. It took him 18 hours. Maciek was 8.5 hours, I think it was.
That's
in the
insane.
end.
18 hours.
18 hours. God. I mean, Maciek was saying it's the craziest, worst pain, worst he's done. Bob did 18 hours finishing the dark. I saw a little snippet that said it was dark. He had lights on and he was foiling. And I have windsurfed in the dark, like racing in the UK, and it's horrendous. You can't judge the chop or anything.
And that channel between Netherlands and UK, that's a busy shipping channel.
Ships, like God, sketchy, man.
Did he have a boat following him?
Yeah. There was support and stuff, but they had problems with the boats. They had it sounded like horrendous, but that documentary is out. So it's not on Windsurfing TV. I guess it's on his own channel. I've not watched it yet, but I bet it's an interesting watch. I bet it's pretty full on. It sounds pretty dramatic.
It's kind of interesting how lately we're getting a bit more of this long distance windsurfing. So all of a sudden has just come back on this. I mean, I know it's always been there, but we've had a few things happening lately with it. I
think it's like fashion, isn't it? Just goes around in circles. It's a bit like what I did the other day. I went freestyling for the first time. Like I got motivated, to go freestyle again. I think it's the same. It's like, the channel stuff is just to push yourself in a different way, a different something. And because there's so, windsurfing isn't windsurfing. It's not just windsurfing. It's so many different things. Speed is different to free ride. Free ride is different to slalom, different to wave, different to freestyle, they're all different, and they've all got their different things. So even though you're doing one sport, it's not the same. It's like playing squash. Squash is squash. But if you play squash, you play tennis, you play, all the different bracket sports, it kind of makes it a bit more interesting. I think it's the same with windsurfing for me.
You're talking about, yeah.
No, I was saying going freestyling the other day was like eye-opening. I had such a good time.
Oh, right, cool.
I didn't think I was going to, but it's surprising how quickly, like I spent a lot of time freestyling in the early days.
All right.
It was surprising how quickly things came back. Although when you first go out, your confidence is a little bit like on edge.
That's cool, man. Well, good on you. I was just thinking with this whole long distance, it would be cool one day, Benny, to do maybe a like one thing. I mean, maybe it's not a great idea, but even just getting a few longboards and doing an island hop trip. You go to the Caribbean or something, strap a few waterproof bags to your board, and then just literally sail from island to island and that could be cool, wouldn't it? I mean,
I've talked about it before on the podcast, but I genuinely, I had an opportunity to say it the other day. I didn't, because they've got this new windsurf mag coming out in the UK.
Oh yeah, look good.
Which sounds really cool. You know, like I like having a windsurf mag, but they were asking questions in a little bit of promo for the magazine. They were like, what's your first memories of magazines? And I kind of said a few things that came straight into my head. You know, just don't think about it. Just what's the first thoughts you had? And it's weird what they are, but that's what they were. But actually, one of my first thoughts is of the hi-ho. Did you ever read about the hi-ho?
Oh yeah. I used to dream about that.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of my first lasting memories from magazines, was this race about, you know, around the Caribbean or wherever, where they basically go from island to island and have a party in each island and celebrate the race. And actually it is a race, and it's, you know, in your board shorts, and it's just blasting. And there's like a big flotilla of boats that go with it as well. And I just thought that seemed like such a cool thing. And I kind of dreamt that one day I might do it. And I remember reading an article and they said the prices or the cost of doing it. I was like, maybe I won't be able to do it. But, you know, it's still, it's a lasting memory I had of those pictures and all that sort of stuff from over there.
Actually, this is interesting. Oh, sorry, I'm just typing in hi-ho. Yeah, I think because we're the same age, Benny, when the hi-ho was at its sort of, you know, peak, it was in like it was like the early 90s or something, right?
Yeah.
And but we were a teenager, and I think from memory, you know, at the time it was like, you know, $6,000 US, which, you know, like back then seemed like a hell of a lot, and it still is actually. But yeah, as a teenager, it was, you know, it was a bit.
It was the dream, wasn't it? It was like, you know, I'm here sailing at the time on Bala, sailing, you know, Bala Lake. It's freezing water. I'm in a wetsuit, you know, whatever. And then I'm looking at this hi-ho, and there's chicks in bikinis, and there's rum, getting drunk and partying, and these sort of blasting in board shorts, and, you know, like amazing scenery. And there's like these catamarans. And I was like, wow, that looks like, that's where I want to be. That is, that's it. That's the dream, man. What would be cool? Imagine doing a podcast with someone that done the hi-ho or organized it, and then the stories behind it, because, you know, I know from being involved in events, you know, the stuff in the magazines and stuff is not the full story of what happens. So yeah, I think it would be pretty interesting.
Can you see this? This is an article. I don't know when it's obviously a fairly. This is before the ones that we're talking about, because obviously they're using Windsurf One Designs. I'm not logged into Facebook. It's a Facebook article.
Yeah, that was definitely before.
But this is the fourth annual Johnny Walker Hook In and Hold On, which is, it's basically the same event, but just an earlier version of it.
I like it. The Johnny Walker.
That was the hi-ho, Hook In, Hold On. But yeah, it was
okay. I didn't. Okay, even when you even said that, I didn't even understand. Oh my God.
You just thought everyone sounded around. Hi ho,
man! I'm such an idiot.
Silver.
Maybe that's a new feature. I'm thinking the Willy skipper, Rate My Willy skipper back, is going to come back. Rate My Willy is back on Windsurfing TV. So if you have a Willy skipper, a little shout out for Rate My Willy. That's coming back to Windsurfing TV. But I mean, hi-ho, hook in and hold on. I didn't know that. That's so crazy. That's how much I didn't used to read the magazines. I just looked at pictures. Oh, shit.
This is interesting. I'm just reading the article. It says, "It's the most masochistic board sailing event I've ever seen," declared Jack Kruger. "Will he be back next year?" I queried. Absolutely. That's his first. It's his first one. What's he saying? Oh, it's 100 nautical mile race around the Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
Fun and inherent camping at sea. It's the only event that takes your hotel with you. Competitors are at sea the whole time. Yeah, anyway, but the one we saw was the one that was a bit newer with the newer gear, but it obviously started a long time ago. So it was
that makes sense, because the one I saw was when they first, it was first transferring over to shortboards and stuff like this. But actually on longboard, like I've got a full longboard background. I would love it. I actually think like cruising around on a longboard is actually fun. People who've never done it will be like, "Oh, shut up, prophet." But it's actually super fun.
Well, I think it's more fun if there's a purpose for it.
Yeah.
But, like if you're using it to get from island to island and you get to literally sail up every nook and cranny because you're on a longboard, that makes it interesting. Because obviously the issue with the shortboard is you are limited. A longboard, you could literally go anywhere on it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. The foil is amazing for that. The problem is, if you hit something or the light, with a longboard, the daggerboard moves up. You can have a relatively small fin. Like I did a long distance race over in New Caledonia back in the 90s. Like a long distance race around the Ile de Pins, which is like their kind of tropical islands off the main island. And that was absolutely insane. Just such a, and I had the luxury of had a really good start and I was leading for quite a while as we went up this. And it's just such a cool, long distance racing like that on longboards when you're tacking in between little sections and round islands and down like these little, it's so amazing. It's probably one of my most lasting, best lasting experiences or memories of that kind of stuff.
Oh, well, added to the list, Benny. Anyway, so that was Maciek. Oh yeah, this is another one, Alexis Mathis. So again, I hear the name. Honestly, don't know much about this guy, but it looks like he's quite young.
I was going to say he's one of the young guys coming up. He's on Taboo GA, and he's been doing some damage. He's had some good results. That's
a great photo. That's that's awesome. Is this John Carter, you think, doing a lot of this? Or
yeah, John Carter. He's actually messed up his Achilles tendon, but it sounds like he's back for Sylt, which is good to hear.
All right, cool.
I'm not sure if he would be back.
So this is another Frenchman. Yeah, French. There's so many French windsurfers, aren't there? It's cool. Okay, so he's born in Brittany. So I hope everyone listening doesn't mind, because there's probably a few other people like me who might not be up to speed with all the sailors. And I personally find it a lot more interesting following it when I just have at least some background rather than just see a name. I want to actually just get to know them a little bit, right? It makes it more interesting. So he was born in Brittany, cradled by the ocean, completed a dual university degree. Oh, okay. At 21 years old, he decided to go for it. His ambition to fully thrive in my career while sharing this human sporting adventure. See, that's the other thing too. There's a whole story. You just see these people. All right, here's Alexis Mathis. He's in there on the race course, but they've had to make a really strong, conscious decision to do this. You don't just decide one Friday I'm going to go racing PWA and end up there on a Saturday, do you? Like it's a real conscious decision.
This is what I was saying about the results from the UK with the old boys still being there. It's like, to challenge, let's say, me or Phil or Bob, there's a lot of experience there. You can't just go, oh, we're going to do a little bit of windsurfing and then we're going to beat these guys. There's a lot of experience. And again, with Mattis now, if he's got a fifth, I think in Furta, he was fifth in Furta last year, was it? But he showed some really good skills and he's young. So, but then it's like, excellent. How much can you push? How much effort can you put in? Because when you do, go for it, let's say, and you're trying to become a world tour athlete, or you want to, where do you want to get to? Do you want to be world champion? Do you want to get podium? Are you happy with top 10? Do you want to just make a living? There's lots of decisions to make, but you are sacrificing normal life. And people think, you've got it easy. But I know from doing it like that, it's fun, but you sacrifice a lot of things that people take for granted. And a lot of people find they can't do it. They can't live that life because there's only a few of them that get decent money. The rest are kind of living on massive budgets or, under the minimum wage when you look at it, you really are living in your suitcase.
Yeah.
And, the rewards aren't massive. So you got to get that fulfillment personally from pushing and driving, or the commitment to what result you think you're going to get. And then there's a decision to be made and everyone makes it. You'll see there's some really talented guys that decide it's not for them anymore. They want a house to live in. They want to have a girlfriend that doesn't leave them because they're traveling around the world and they can't afford to take them, because if you've got lots of money, you travel with the whole family, or whatever, and it's not a problem. When you are living on budgets, it's very difficult to do that. So there's a lot of decisions. You know, don't get your violins out just yet, but there is some decisions to make.
No, but I can have an appreciation for it. You know, it's yeah, it's a big commitment, and as you said, not for necessarily a huge financial reward. You know, there has to be a little bit of love in there. Here's another one, William. Huh?
Go on.
No, I'll let you finish.
No, it's all right. I was going to say something else, but yeah, William Hubert, is that you're going to say?
Oh yeah. Well, that was another one. Again, I mean, I won't go. Look, there's lots of sales. I won't. You know, we're not going to go. For
no, but
maybe the top 10 might be interesting. Just
I was
because,
about to say, what is good to say is a lot of young riders that are, you know, now there. You know, there's a lot of the old boys you have either dropped back or dropped out. So now when you look at that top 10, like you say, you're seeing new names.
Yeah,
and it's super interesting because
there
are some younger names coming through. You know, William Hubert has been there for a while. He's won the foil speed, you know, world championships last couple of years. He's been vice world. Has he been world champion? Vice world champion. Vice world champion. He's been
French,
on the podium before.
Yeah. He's 30. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but
yeah.
Is it? Yeah, okay. But it says he's European champion from 2011. That's 14 years ago. So he was only 16 at the time. Yeah, okay. He's been around. So the thing is, again, because you're there commentating, you're around all these people, so it all becomes second nature. But when I'm here sitting in Australia, or for that matter, probably a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, you know, all you're seeing is a name, and then you see them, you know, glimpse in a heat, and then you don't see them ever again. So it's still... Yeah. There are certain personalities that you get see a lot, you know, like Teo and Geordie, but you know, guys like this, I'll be honest, I don't really know. I can't say I can picture the guy or anything like that. But again, you know, here we are learning something about him. Another Frenchman, and he's been around. Yeah. No, that's cool. All right, so that's okay. Well, that's William Benoit Mercier. How do you pronounce that? Benoit
Mercier. You know, you're asking the wrong guy, even on the commentator. Probably the worst. But Benoit's another one. You know, newer guy. He's had some good results. He's been really consistent. Did well in Slalom X. I'm not sure how his overall results were in the end because he had some bad luck. Like I think he had an injury or cut himself on one thing when he was doing well. But he's been looking, you know, solid. And again, he's not one of the biggest guys out there. But he's had some really good results. Especially in Slalom X, he was looking good.
I love like these when you see the videos or the live stream, because it's not in like 4K and you know you're not always super close to the action. You know, some of the intensity is lost. But when you see a photo like this, it's pretty cool. It's so wound up, isn't it? You know, I use wave gear, but this just to me looks very hardcore, you know what I mean? Like just how wound up that is.
They are super on the edge. That's the thing. It's really hard unless you've ever done, you know, slalom. It is crazy how much they're on the edge. It's difficult to appreciate, if I'm honest, like how freaking crazy and how just on the freaking limit these boys are.
Yeah,
you know. And when you see him crash, you're like, oh, he crashed, you know, like as if, oh, fucking hell, I don't crash on my jibes. When you go and fail with what these guys are doing, it is bonkers on what conditions they are doing what they're doing and the speed and how many people are around them. It's pretty insane.
You know, the other thing too is, you know, you and I have again been around for the same period of time, but I enjoy looking at the development of the sails. Like, you know, we both grew up in a sort of Dunkerbeck era and all the Neil Pride sails and stuff. Anyway, here we are in 2025. But I have to say, I do appreciate the way the sails look now. Everything looks so high performance, you know, like everything, you know, like you look at a sail like that and you think that's the culmination of 50 years of development. You know, when I say 50 years, I'm not saying Saverne or 50 years around, but like the fact that, you know, like it all gets passed down from someone. And this is
what would be interesting. We have 20 guys from the top 10, right? And the top guy has to use the gear from 20 years ago. second place from 19 years ago,
oh my God, I'm trying to
18 years,
organize that.
and then the 20th guy has got the newest gear. Who do you think would win?
Well, I mean, gear, what do you think of the gear in the last, I don't know, slalom gear in the last, what do you think, 5 to 6, 7, 8 years is all pretty good? Or I don't slalom, like if
I'm
you
genuinely interested in that race. Or if you took 4 guys and you did 5 years apart, so you're like, you have someone with like new gear now, then 2020, let's say 2015, 2010, 2005, 6 guys, and then 2000. I think you'd see there's a big difference between the 2000, obviously, but I bet it wouldn't be slow. I bet it would still be relative. Just see what you gear you'd pick.
Was there a period that you can think of where you felt like the gear took a bit of a leap in performance? Was there a particular year that you thought there was a bit of anything you can think of there? Or
I would say, yeah, there probably is. I mean, the racer guys will know more than me, but if you said gear from 15 years ago, I'd like to see some gear from 2010 because I have a feeling it's pretty good in 2010. 10 years ago, I don't think there would be massive differences. I think there'll be differences, but I don't think it would be, that's a long time, 10 years, isn't it? I don't think there'd be crazy differences.
Yeah.
I know that because, I've been on slalom boards from a while ago, and the boards were pretty good, maybe masts and stuff like this. George says he has an Isonic from 2010, which feels really fast. I think I can say it. I think 2010, you're going to get some decent stuff. I'd love to see a race like that. I really would. I'd love to see a race like that where, but the newer stuff, it's crisper. It's new. When you've had a board for a long time and it's been beaten over the chop and it gets a little bit looser, it doesn't, it's not as crisp, but the designs, rockers and stuff like this, how much can it have changed once you get that dialed in? Once they went shorter and a bit wider, more comfortable. I think, a lot of the new gear, especially for free ride and free race, is more comfortable. It's light, all that sort of stuff. But in the early stuff, the boards were fast. It wasn't that they weren't fast. They were fast. But I think the ease of use changed a little bit.
Ordinary Swedish windsurfer, I can't feel that much difference between 2016 and 2021. The big difference is the monofilm. It's a bit more fresh. So pretty much reiterate.
You want new gear because it's new, it's fresher, whatever. But in terms of if you had a brand new one from 2016, let's say, how much actual difference is that? I bet there's not a crazy amount. It would be more how you've rigged it, the downhaul, the mast, everything is fit in with the gear, but you need new gear. The gear doesn't last forever. You're not going to unwrap a brand new 2016 sail because it's not cheaper to produce it. It's not generally got cheaper.
I know gear has generally improved over time, but sometimes I think when you get a fresh new sail, you sail it for the first time, you go, oh, I love this thing. I wonder how much of that is just the fact that, the sail hasn't stretched. It's all, crisp and how much of that.
I think that is. I mean, like, look at bikes. Like, I'm looking at my e-bike. Yeah, they've got some new innovations with certain things, but and my iPhone, same thing. I don't feel the need. I am going to get a new iPhone just because the USB-C.
Oh, yeah.
But my iPhone personally does everything I need it to do. And if I speak to anyone who just uses a phone, my mom, my dad, they wouldn't notice the bloody difference. It's just a phone. And that is, I think, in windsurfing, it's got a bit like that, where you have all these innovations and it gets to a point where it comes down to small details. And certain people are looking for these small details. And then, someone comes out and it's got a nice feel to it. And that's the difference. But is it doing crazy things much better? It can't do. It has to get to a point. It can't just keep increasing the performance every year by the same percentage. It just can't. This life, it's got to plateau at some point. That's what I would say.
Well, I hope it doesn't plateau. I want to keep seeing improvements, but I know what you're saying.
But I think then it doesn't. It's not like how can they percentagely improve every year? It's just impossible.
No, I
It's
know.
impossible. Like, they can't make your waveboard go 20% faster and turn 20% tighter every year for them. It's just impossible. There's got to be a point where, yes, they can find like a combo that just feels nice, and it might feel nicer to you than it does to someone else. But then, a board that I like, you might not like. So I think that the skill is in the wave sailing, if we go away from racing, is to try and find those different feels and different ways of sailing, which is different. It doesn't always mean it's better, because what is better? Going faster is better, but it might not make sense. You know what I mean? Like in terms of some people's wave sailing. But in racing, ideally you want a board that's the fastest, that turns the easiest, which is the most comfortable. And it's just balancing those parameters and trying to play around with them to find a sweet spot, which most people resonate with. Like you need something that just ticks those boxes. And again, certain brands will find those little balance points the right way, and they will suit more people, and they're the ones that do well. But it's not to say, like, there could be some foils out there. For example, we talk about foiling. There might be some easier foils, which are much easier to ride, but not as fast. But they're so easy to ride, you go faster on them because they're easy to ride. Whereas there's other foils out there that are really fast, but it's like riding a bit of a bucking bronco. If you make the slightest error, maybe you get punished. And again, maybe one's much faster, but it doesn't mean it's the best. So I think it's finding those balances.
And rounding out these top 10, so might as well do that. Sem Stroomsma. Again, here's another name.
Stroomsma.
Yeah. Oh, Stroomsma.
No, I don't know. You're from Holland. No?
Yeah. If there's any Dutch people listening, I'm pretty sure that pronounces.
Apparently, I say Stroomsma, and they all take the piss out of me. So now I call it Stroomsma just for fun.
Because it's more like an O, so Stroomsma. I'm pretty sure that's how it's said. But anyway, another name that, again, I've heard, but I don't know much about. What can you tell us about Sem?
New young Dutch guy coming up, big fella, funny, likes a party, likes to go fast. Yeah,
he's Dutch.
Good. He's fun, man. He's fun dude.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, he's got some skills. He's big fella.
Yeah. God, that's interesting. These new talking about the looks of sails, but these new Gastra sails are they're quite unique looking, aren't they? I do like that they've started to bring back that old. I mean, I prefer it if it was sort of up here or whatever. And I look, this GA, I kind of don't love that because I grew up on Gastra, and this to me seems like sacrilege just having GA. But anyway, I do like the fact that they're bringing that back a bit as well.
They've kind of done well with that name, to be fair to them. Like, they've kept it feeling like a Gastra, even though they've got rid of Gastra.
I know, but I'm just because I'm just showing my age. I just grew up with Gastra.
No, but I think they're saving a lot of money, and I don't. But I don't think they've lost the Gastra heritage as much as when we saw Duotone obviously was North, go to Duotone. There was a total switch. Whereas GA have kind of done the same thing, but they kind of like piggybacked off the old name somehow, and it's creeped through. It's like you didn't notice it as much, obviously.
It's interesting. Look, maybe just a quick segue here, but this issue with licensing. So obviously, there's a brand Gastro that makes the clothes and all that sort of stuff, and so then the Windsurf brand is a separate entity, so they've had to go with the GA. But I would have thought if I owned a clothing brand, Gastra, you'd make a deal with the windsurfing arm and just say, look, you can use the Gastra name. Look, you don't make T-shirts and hoodies and stuff because that's our business, but you could leverage, it's like Gastra's the life. It's all related to windsurfing and lifestyle. It's a shame they couldn't work it out.
I think they've realized they didn't need it, the windsurfing brand. Like, they haven't really lost anything.
No, I know, but I just would have thought the clothing brand would have benefited from at least having that associate, like keeping that association tied in. That's just me, like it's anyway. Yeah, I know it gets a bit technical. Cool. Well, that is the top 10. Should we move over to the women?
Move over to but is the women in Sylt?
Oh,
you're not always there because of the shore break, but it might be this year. They've changed it a little bit in between.
So how can you check that for me to let me know if the women are so does that let me know.
Easy to find. Discipline: men's wave, women's wave, men's freestyle, men's foil. No women's foil.
Oh, so does that mean
it's pretty hardcore? It's not, especially most of the women are shorter than the men, and that sounds like, what's that got to do with it, Ben? But when you're trying to get out in shore break and you're shorter and you've got a meter high foil, it's, if you have an extra 20 centimeters on the shore break, which is not much, it becomes pretty treacherous. I got to be honest.
Yeah. So obviously their next event's Japan, right? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, which will be the final.
Okay. Well, in that case, maybe we'll run through them before the Japan event. Should we do that?
That makes sense. I'm just looking at this comment coming in, which says about what we were talking about before we lose the subject, talking about the new carbon fiber fabrics in the sail. Are they really that much better? And it's a good question, because I've seen that, question asked quite a lot.
Well, yeah, I can actually.
I was going to say, you've got one, haven't you? That's what I was going to say.
Actually, not only do I have them, let me see if I can. I was talking to Ben before when we were planning this podcast, and I was just cleaning up my sails. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can. Let's have a look where we got it here. Sorry, bear with me. I've got the Goya carbon. Yeah. Yeah,
I was just going to say, while you're trying to find that, just for people who don't know, basically, as far as I understand it, it's a laminate with the carbon strips in it, which go obviously one way. So the idea is the carbon, gives it minimum to no stretch one way with a little bit of stretch the other way from the natural material. So with that in mind, you've got something that reacts differently, depending on which way you lay it compared to where the pressure and the wind is on the sail. So it's a bit like normal carbon, where you lay it different ways to create flex or not flex. So with fins, if it was easy as just laying up a load of carbon and doing it in a mold, everyone would do it. But it's to do with how you lay the carbon, which ways you put it to create the flex at different parts of the fin, which makes it a good fin or a bad fin, or flexi fin or not flexi fin. And as far as I understand it, talking to Mark, because I've had nothing to do with this, they have, I think, made like 20 prototypes with different ways they've laid the carbon on different panels and different bits, and experimented with different things to see how it affects the sail in all these different ways. Obviously Goya have already had a carbon setup for a bit. I think S2 Maui, there's a few people have been using it for a while. And why would you use it? It is lighter. It's not as, it's strong. So I heard someone else ask this question, just maybe not the same question, but it's like, well, they say it's strong, but then they say it's also, how durable is it? And it's like, well, if you land on it, it's obviously quite thin, because it's a laminate. It's two thin materials stuck together with the carbon in it, but the carbon gives it the rigidity. So you can make it lighter, but still have the non-stretch, this is the big difference as far as I understand it, if I have got that right. So you've got some carbon. How many sails have you got?
Have I got some? Oh, look. God. Wow. Yeah, no, this was reminding. Remember this?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sails. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's excessive. I actually decided that. I decided that this is just too many, so I'm going to sell a few. If any of you in Australia want a Goya sail, I'm about to put it on Seabreeze.
Oh, is this advert?
Yeah, no, but it's cool. Yeah. No, but the reason, because what I decided to do was to individually save the windsurf industry and buy as many sails as I could. No, but there's two. I've got the Bonsai 11 carbon and the 11 Bonsai Surf. And I wanted to just try them too, to see which one I liked. And, I can sort of sell them on for close to what I bought them for, so it wouldn't cost me too much money. But just going back to the carbon material, because these are all the carbon versions, what I found with them is that, yes, I mean, I'm not sure about the weight thing, I guess, there is probably a lighter, although I don't know if it's crazy difference. I think the main aspect to it is you can control the stretch in certain parts of the sail, and therefore increase the wind range and control. I think that it's its main claim to fame.
Okay.
Personally, tell me if I'm wrong, if somebody knows more than me, but basically Goya, the way they market these is, well, one of the big selling points is a greater wind range than the standard Bonsai 11, another non-carbon version. And I do think that that does play out as well. Like, I have noticed that, yeah, I feel like it's got it does have a very good wind range. So
that's interesting, because Mark said the same thing. So obviously Mark's been doing the simmer one. I've been listening to him, and he said the same thing. Again, I haven't really had too much experience. I've used one when I was in Rosniger recently, which is like a pre-prototype one. I definitely noticed it was light. That's what I was kind of doing. But again, the wind range is interesting. So Goya's saying that, Mark's saying that, because he was on about making a video with, going somewhere with a couple of sails just to prove how much wind range there is on it, which I think is an interesting concept. And it's like, why is that then? I wonder why that is. Maybe.
Well, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming it's just less stretcher in the sail. Okay. The carbon strands are obviously less stretchy, so you can control that aspect of the sail a bit more. There probably also is a durability thing, I guess. If you get a little tear, it's probably harder to get through the carbon strands. I don't know, could be wrong, but there's probably a durability aspect. One thing I have. Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe not. I just thought if you do get a tear, maybe the carbon strands make it a bit harder to actually, continue the tear.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I could be wrong. The other thing is, what I have found with these is that probably the biggest downside to buying this type of sail is the cost, obviously. Yeah. Like it's a more expensive sail, and don't expect the resale of these to hold up to the initial cost. So say, for example, you buy a non-carbon sail for $1,000 and this is $1,500, you'll get a better resale, I think, on the non-carbon ones.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah, percentage-wise, because I don't think people out there see the added value of buying a second-hand carbonish sail, mate, as much. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, don't get me wrong.
So if you bought one for 1,500, if you sold it for 1,000, you'd lose 500. And if you bought the normal one for 1,000, you sold it for 500, you'd lose 500.
But what I'm saying is that
it'll sell quicker.
Well, there's that, but what I'm saying is you might sell that 1,000 one for 650 and lose 3. You know what I mean? Like So that's my experience with these type of things. So it is a bit of a luxury item.
So go on, how much are you selling him for? Are you selling the carbon ones? Which ones are you selling? Have you decided? Because that's interesting for a few people out there. You got
So I bought.
It's obviously personal, but
yeah, I kind of also I bought, like I said, the Bonsai 11 carbons and then the Bonsai 11 surf. The two blue ones are the surf ones as well. Anyway, so I've got too many. I'm basically going to keep the surfs and sell the Bonsai 11. The Bonsai 11 are a bit slightly longer boom, a bit more powerful, a bit more backhandy type pressured. Like, they're very stable. They're a little bit more stable than the surfs. What I say, a little, there's nothing wrong. It's not like you go out of the surf, you go, oh my God, this is an unstable sail. But if you had to sort of, decide what's to go for, if you're going a bit more onshore-y or like cross to onshore, or you're a bit bump and jumpy, or also just, you have a lot of that type of sailing, then I'd probably say go for the Bonsai 11. Although, look at Brasinho, the guy just is world champion and use that sail. So I'm not saying you can't use it all over the place, but then the surf is sort of marketed as the more surf style oriented, and it's
in my experience, because I tried them last year, but I think it's more just different styles of sailing.
I
think they're both good wave sails, but for me, I preferred the surf. It was more like my simmer, like more like the black tip. It's like where the power is. It's more forward, and then like you say, the Bonsai 11, what I tried was pretty backhand, like full drive. Like you felt like you were on a, I don't know, it felt pretty full on to me. I don't know why that was. Like, and I can imagine Brasinho, he sails full power, and it's like you feel like you've got to be ready. Right, we're going. Like it felt intense. That's probably over exaggeration, but that was the feeling I got compared to on the surf. I felt more relaxed and more ready, and the sail was a bit more maneuverable, like a little bit more, because the power is a bit further forward rather than on the backhand. Whereas when it's on the backhand, I feel like I've got to be sheeted in and driving, and that kind of sums it up. But again, a lot of people like that backhand feel. I know that from, you know, talking to people and letting them try a certain amount of gear. Me personally, I like the power to be a bit further forward.
Yeah. So again, that's it, and that's again why I ended up with so many sails, because I wanted to try and see which one I prefer. So anyway, I'm going to narrow down the amount of sails and save myself a few bucks there as well. There's a couple of messages here I'll just get onto. Ordinary Swedish windsurfer saying, I would gladly pay more for a durable sail than a ultra thin for minimal higher performance or lighter. I'm really tired of thin materials.
So I'm going to answer that because I've thought this more recently. I feel like who's we? The people who do the testing have driven this whole light thing, because they started weighing everything. And it got to a thing that if your sail wasn't the lightest sail, and I know Duotone got in almost a battle with Severn. It's like, who's got the lightest wave sail? And it kind of pushed everyone down that route. And then the problem is you've got the sponsored riders who obviously get new gear every year, no problems. They want the lightest stuff. It's a bit like O'Neill with the wetsuits. They have this super light comp suit, which, you know, all the guys wear, but they get brand new suits every time. But most normal people want the wetsuit to last, you know, even if it's slightly less flexible. And I think it's the same with windsurfing sails. You can definitely have a more durable sail, but usually I would say most brands have a durable sail in their range, or they've got a alliteration of it, like a X-Ply or whatever it might be. The crazy thing is X-Ply is lighter than some of the monofilms and stuff anyway, because it's two thin things laminated together, which, so sometimes in theory, the more durable one, because it's X-Ply, is sometimes lighter, which is kind of mad as well. But it's got a different feel because it's two links put together. It has a softer feel than the monofilm, which is a more crispier feel.
But sorry, when you say more durable, if there's a thin two bits of monofilm that are thinner put together versus two thicker bits of monofilm that are put together, are you talking about the durability just with, like, once you do get a puncture,
weirdly,
it's not going to spread? Or
I'm a bit new to this, but this is what I learned in my, you know, roaming around in the Deafy Wind and talking to the sail boys. So basically, the monofilm is just one piece. So it's got this nice, crisp, sharp feel. Monofilm, clues in the title. And then speaking to Monty Spindler, you know, he was saying about the biply, which is obviously two bits of monofilm stuck together. Now, there's a couple of things here. They're more durable when you stick them together. If you forget the X-Ply, which has got the Kevlar strands or whatever in it, but it's the same. It's biply with X-Ply strands. But what the main difference is, because of, which I never knew this, and it kind of like not blew my mind, but I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that. Because of the glue they use to stick it together, this is UV, something that basically stops the monofilm getting sun-baked, because it's got this glue in the middle that they stick it together with. There's something to do with that glue stops the monofilm degrading.
Well, it's got a UV inhibitor in it, isn't it?
Yes, whatever that sounds like the right word.
But
basically, so by sticking two bits of monofilm, thinner bits of monofilm together, again, I'm not sure how that works. I know with the Kevlar, you know, the X-Ply stuff, it can actually sometimes work out lighter than the monofilm, and it has a better UV resistance, and it's got the Kevlar in it, which stops it ripping further once you rip it a little bit. You know, it's got a pull point. So that's kind of the reason for the durability. But because you've got two bits of thinner stuff stuck together, you have different properties, which sometimes make it feel different. So it feels a bit more spongy rather than the monofilm feels very crisp and sharp, but it definitely doesn't last as long as the other stuff.
Do you use a window that has the strands in it or without?
I have got the moment. I've got a mixture of black tips and the Evokes, and the Evokes have got the strands in it, which is interesting because as far as I know, there's not too much downside to the X-Ply, apart from, I think, with the whiter strands in it, you get a reflection in the sun. And I've heard rumors that if you have the black X-Ply, it actually stops a bit of that reflection. So I think Simmer are going to experiment a bit with that. It sounds interesting. But again, I do like the feel of monofilm. It's just a personal thing. I know it doesn't last as long, but that crisper feeling, I like it. You know, and then some people actually like the feel of X-Ply, and some people don't notice the difference, you know, which is fine. But,
when you talk about monofilm, you're talking about biply?
No, I can't think of if I've used bloody biply. Like, I never really took.
Well, for example, there's Goya sails. They have biply windows, but there's no strands in it.
No, so I don't know. I guess it makes sense to use that biply because it has got that UV kind of thing. So it'd be interesting if you use it for long enough. It'd be interesting to see how well it lasts compared to a normal monofilm window.
Yeah. And look, actually, just coming back onto this as well about tired of thin materials, this is something that is interesting too, because you see there's the sort of sponsored riders, and every year they get a new fresh set of sails, and everything's always looking fresh all the time. But obviously for a lot of people out there, they can't afford to buy new sails every year and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, this whole longevity thing, it's super important. And
but the problem is, soon as you beef up a sail and make it more durable, you will make it will be heavier.
Yeah, I know.
It's obviously not going to feel as good as the light one. So what the problem is the brands had is these sails go into the test, and they're obviously in a test for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it might be, but it's nowhere near enough time to test, you know, durability or longevity, which is more a different, you know, longevity, durability, or, you know, how well it's put together right now is different to once I've had it for 2 years or 3 years or something. And that is the problem with the testing. So a lot of the brands that were making more durable sails were not doing well in the tests because they were heavier sails. You know, they were still good sails, but when you compare it to something that's lighter, if you're comparing two race cars and one's like built for comfort and durability and the other one's just a stripped down kind of racing rocket, that other car's going to kick its ass in acceleration, in feel, in everything, because it's going to feel light and stuff. But test them 3 years later, you know, it's a whole different ball game. So I think this is where we went down that road, and I think only the consumer can bring that back. You know, brands will do what the consumer buys. So what has happened is, if that is the case and people are buying lighter stuff and using decision making to buy new stuff on weight and feel and all this, then you're going to lose that durability compared to what it was. You just will. If the consumer decides, no, screw this, we're going to buy the most durable sail, we want a 10-year sail, we want this, and they start finding out the brand that is doing that and making a point of it, and these guys see a bump in sales and blah, 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 the other brands will follow. It's consumer-led.
Yeah. No, it's obviously a bit tricky for the brands. Obviously, there's been a bit of pressure to make everything lighter, and you're trying to cover a wide range of different uses for people, and it's not straightforward. Max, there's a few comments now that we're talking about all this. A few comments are coming through, so I might as well address them. Does the way to build your wave sail quiver differ a lot depending on the weight of the sailor? Yeah, I mean, obviously, the size sails you use is directly related to the weight of the sailor. So, yeah, that comes with experience, knowing what size sails you need, especially, you know, are you sailing in 15 knots? Are you sailing in 35 knots? Is it onshore? Is it cross off? You know, there's a whole bunch of variables. But yeah, it just comes with. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it comes with experience, unfortunately. It's like people say to me, oh, I'm coming to Geraldton, what sail sizes should I bring? I'm like, well, it's like, how heavy are you? 120 kilos? Are you 60 kilos? You know,
do you sail overpowered? Do you sail underpowered? Are you light on your feet? Because there's big guys that are super light on their feet and they get away with it. And it again depends what brand they're on. Like some brands have got sails that are, you know, very powerful. Some brands or some models of sails are, you know, not much power. So it does make a huge difference.
Yeah. I think
I always, in that question, just to help you out, in that question, I just tell them what I do. And I used to tell that when people ask me what sail should I go on sailing, I'm like, look, I can't tell you what sail to go on, but I can tell you what I'm going to go on and how I'm expecting it to be. So, you know, because it is a good way. I never tell anyone what sail they should be on, because then you get this, oh, you said to go on a 5.0. You're like, hang on, leave me out of this. I've had a few issues with this in the past, but so I just answer it now. I go, well, I am 80 kilos. I'm going on a 5.0 and I'm expected to be super powered up. So make of that information what you will. You will decide your own fate here. I'm not going to tell you.
Just actually, this is an interesting question for you as well, Benny. You're 80 kilos. You live in a place that's 50, you know, say your main sailing is 15 to 25 knots or something, or say 15 to 30 knots. And someone says to you, look, I'm on a really tight budget. I want to buy some new sails, but I'm not going to buy 5 sails. I'm not going to buy 6 sails. What do you think you could like say to them, like, and to stretch it out, but the gaps between the sails, like where you'd go, look, this will be pushing it a bit, but you could get away with, like, what would you say to people, like, you know, but the gaps, you know, like 5, like what would you be like?
I think you've got to look, because you're 15 to 30. It's like, what's the percentage you want to sail on the small stuff? What is, you know, are you going to be hunting to go out in all those light wind days? Because if you are, then you need to think about that big sail. Because if you're, you know, let's say it's 80% in the 5.0 range, you want a decent 5.0 that can cover you, you know, a bit of distance. And then maybe you only get 20% in the windy stuff. You know, you could maybe buy a very cheap storm sail, like for the really, you know, windy stuff or something, and then invest in the one you use the most. Because that's the problem. People, if you don't invest much in the sail they use all the time, and they only have one sail, let's say it's 4.7 weather most of the time, and they buy a secondhand sun-beaten 4.7, you're just going to have constant problems with that sail, because it's, you know, it's had a beating. You know, sails when you buy secondhand, if they haven't had much use, fine. But if you're buying one that's been in a center in Greece for the 2 seasons or something, or, you know, it's been rigged for the whole long, it ain't going to last very long. So there is times, I think, where you can invest in a new sail and something that's going to take a beating. Or there's times where, you know, let's say you might have the odd 3.7 day. You don't get many of them. You don't need to have a brand new 3.7 for those type of days. You know, you can hunt out some bargains. So I think here in Portugal, for example, you need a good 5.0. You know, 5.0
is just a workhorse, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I would say the same in WA. It's, you know, you spend a lot of time. Like, I reckon when I went to WA last time, I could have took a 5.0 and a 4.5.
Maybe
I had
done
to
with
take 2 sails. Like, it's not ideal, but I could get away with a lot of sailing on the 4.5 and a 5.0.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because, you know, certain sail brands will have their 5, and then they'll have like an odd weird size, like a 4.3 or a 4.4, and sometimes, you know, you sort of think, what would be the, you know, is there an ideal number to go to where you're not overlapping too much? Because sometimes, you know, you get a couple of sails, you think, oh, these 2 sails are overlapping a fair bit. But
I don't think, I think I've talked about this actually more recently with a few people, and it is interesting because I think that the perfect gap is around 0.6. You know, if you're trying to stretch it.
Okay. Oh, really? But as you go smaller, doesn't that gap have to go smaller though?
Yeah, but that's the problem. It does when you get into the lower sizes.
So it should be more of a percentage then, no? Like a percentage.
I think you're right. It'd be interesting to formally work out, because the difference is I had a 3.4 and a 3.1. It's only 0.3 difference. It feels like nothing, but it's huge.
Well,
and
that's
then you
10%.
See, but exactly. If you see people with a 0.2 at that smaller size, especially the juniors, it makes such a big difference. Whereas when you get to 5.0, you can go 5.6, 5.0 easily, like without even blinking. You don't miss it. So maybe it is 10%. I mean, I'm spoiled, so I end up having literally a bit like your sails there. I've got every size. So I have got 0.3s all the way down. And, you know, I've got a big van. I keep everything in there. And my reasoning with this is because I obviously get them at a very good deal. The one sail doesn't take a full beating, because when I was trying to explain this to someone the other day, because they were like, yeah, but why not have, and it makes sense, 5-3, 4-7, 4-2, which is the normal spread for normal people. It's that 0.5 gap or whatever it works out, 0.6 gap. The problem is with that, if you live in a place where it's 4-7 weather a lot of the time, or around 4-7 weather, that 4-7 gets an absolute beating, like a beating. And if you break it,
you're stuffed.
You're screwed. It's your main sail. So if you do have the luxury of having those sizes, which is 5-0, 4-7, 4-5, the 4-7 days, which is never exactly 4-7, some of the days you're going to be overpowered on your 5-0. Some of them you're going to be perfect on your 4-7, or a little bit over, a little bit under. And the same with the 4-5. So it takes the pressure off that one sail to be your total everyday sail. So it depends where you live. If you live in a place where you're getting these constant winds, having a few sails in that wind range does help, like a 5-0 and a 4-7, or a 5-3 and a 5-0.
Yep. No, that's good advice. Where were we? Tanel saying, same with board construction. I'd prefer durable over 200 grams of weight saving and heavy price tag. Yeah, and obviously a lot of brands give you that option these days with constructions, don't they? So often you do have a choice with that. But again,
it's consumer led. Like if that's what people want, and I think they have voted a little bit for that with their pricing and where they're buying their boards, but the boards have got heavier, I would say. They used to be even lighter than they are now, like mega light. I remember when I snapped like 7 or 8 boards in a year in the early 2000s, but the boards were lighter, fully lighter. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Actually, you wouldn't have snapped a board. Like, when was the last time you've broken a board, you reckon?
I broke one can't remember the last board I broke.
Yeah, so it's obviously been a long time, which is pretty amazing. Like you said that you broke 5, back then, and you can't even remember the last time you broke one. So that's saying something.
I think like I'm obviously sponsored by Simmer, so this comes with a thing. But the Simmer boards at the moment,
they're awesome. Well, they're kinetic.
I don't know anyone that's kind of broke one. I've maybe seen one or something happening, but something went wrong in the construction, whatever. But in terms of the construction, I haven't. I mean, obviously, I've got older, not going as crazy, but I know Mark, since he's come back, hasn't, and I know what he's done on other brands. So,
that's incredible.
I mean, did you see
how high you go?
Double? Did you see the stall double? I mean, that's probably thinking about it in not sure what board he was on, but whatever it was, he landed. It should have broke. Like
crazy.
They shouldn't be able to take a stall double landed flat.
That's the other thing that blows me away. And like, I'm certainly not smart enough to work it out, but I just have a lot of gratitude again to people who have over the years made the technology to make this stuff possible. Because like, if you actually break it down, you essentially, a huge chunk of the board is a piece of polystyrene, or like which you can just snap like a stick.
Yeah.
And so they've just had these very thin layers of carbon and whatever else, fiberglasses and stuff, vacuum sandwiched it. But it's an incredibly thin layer, and somehow that is able to work with these incredible forces. Like it's quite it's amazing. It works.
Yeah. I mean, they've been doing it for a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but it's crazy. Like it's that, like without that technology, windsurfing would be just about dead. Well, what I mean? Like that technology has.
Well, it's still going. I saw a comment on the video we put from those board building factories the other day, and someone said, "Wow, it feels like construction has not moved on." And that's kind of testament to what they did back in the day and came up with, But
I'm not so sure about that. I think because like nowadays, you're saying that there's hardly a board broken. Well, in comparison.
Yeah, but you've got to remember they were building them. They were lighter. When I was snapping them, boards were coming in super light. I think I had.
Yeah. Okay.
It was ridiculous. It was in the 5 kilo something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fair enough. But still, I do feel like there has been some progress. They're a bit smarter with the way they lay things up and understanding things a bit. But I'm sure there has been some, some progress there. Another comment, this is a hot topic. Everyone's getting this. The thin films tear off the advanced fabrics, making their strength minimized. Better have fabrics and films with more matching strength. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe some of the more advanced fabrics are a bit, a bit more finicky, or, they don't last as long. I guess, is that the point Rasmus is saying there?
We would find out.
Tanel, around here, we actually get our sails repaired. Some are probably easier to repair than others.
Yeah.
That's actually another good point. Yeah. Repair,
It's true. I think like monofilm windows, like I did my window the other day after a kind of a encounter with a mast high wave and some rocks, but and you just replace the window. It's not that expensive actually to replace a window. Obviously, if you mash up the whole sail and you get, okay, that's bad, which is why you want that sail to kind of hold its kind of structure. But if you just put in a window or something, or a minimal panel, especially if you've got X-ply, you can literally just put some tape on it. You know, if you've got the right tape and you clean it and you do it well, it will hold pretty well for a long time until you do it at a certain level where you have to get it repaired. But it's true.
Yeah. Another one from Ordinary Swedish Windsurfer. It's not only the monofilm nowadays, the mast sleeve is just a really thin mylar instead of real textile. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Benny?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not that up on all the bits that are used for certain things, but I've not really had again, I think it depends where you live. Like, since I've been living in Portugal, we're rigging up on the beach. I don't really have a problem with mast sleeves and stuff like that. But I know back in the UK, you're rigging up on car parks and stuff like this, and it's abrasive. And, that's when those type of problems really come out. And obviously, the manufacturer will say, well, shouldn't be rigging up on this. You shouldn't be rigging up on this. But, and it's true. Like, if you rig it up on the sand and it's in the sea and you don't have any rocks, then it won't have those problems. But there are some people that are rigging up, or in certain venues where it does get more worn, let's say.
Are you the sort of person that rigs up, Ben, where you lay the sail out and put the mast in the sleeve and make sure that the sail is staying as flat as possible, or are you the guy that grabs this mast sleeve and just goes crunch, crunch, crunch?
Okay,
like the sail.
I used to be the crunch, crunch, crunch guy. But now, since I've been doing these clinics with Mr. Colin Whippy Dixon, and he's told me that I'm not allowed to do this, I have now got this new OCD thing where I can't watch someone crinkle their sail, because I'm going, oh. And I saw someone the other day like flagging the whole thing. Bang, and it smashed the sail together, and then you get that big crease. It's just a matter of time before that sail's done. So there is ways to rig up to minimize that smashing around. That's for sure.
No, because that's where, we talk about durability and longevity. I think a huge part of a sail's durability is won and lost at the rigging and de-rigging. Okay. Like probably, I think, because once the sail's on the mast and all taut, at least it has shape and it can stay. But the person on the beach, crunch, 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 and that's probably doing way more damage than a sail getting rolled in the white water, I reckon.
There are people out there who are like, I can't believe it, and you're looking at the way they treat the gear, and you're thinking, I can believe it. and what I will know is, like, again, I had this pre-production carbon sail the other day. Again, I haven't used the proper ones, whatever. But what I did notice when rolling it up, maybe that carbon material actually is not so bad. Not saying you should scrunch it up, but rolling it, didn't have that same, like when monofilm, because it's kind of one piece, I feel like it creases and cracks together. The smaller, thinner stuff seems to be a bit more pliable. I'm talking more about the clear window part, the biply or monofilm, whatever. But just that sound, and obviously if you've got a expensive fresh new sail, you want to minimize the amount of creases you got going all through that window, because it's also just makes it harder to see through. And but it's anyway, that's Tim Williams from Australia. I know Tim. G'day, Tim. When traveling to wave sail, I take 2 times 4.7, 5.2, and 4.2
If I need smaller than 4.2, it's just too windy and choppy to wave sail in comfort. Yeah, so that's the other thing. There's a limit to what people are willing to go out in. 4.2 is pretty windy already. That's interesting. So he takes 2 of each. Or does he? Or is he saying he takes 2 of 4.7s or 1 of each?
But
again,
I
see. Sorry.
But I think I totally resonate with that. Like, you might have one old sail that you just don't sell. You just keep it. And it's like this backup sail, because the 4.7, if you look at his quiver there, 5.242, that 4.7 is a really key size, and it will take a beating. So it makes sense. Like, that's what I was saying about having the 5.0, the 4.5, and the 4.7, which I know is overkill, but with the extra 4.7, it does cover you. And it doesn't mean you have to buy 2 new 4.7s. It's like, find a bargain somewhere and have it as your backup, because, you are going to, get the use out of it, I reckon.
Yep. No, that makes sense. Sven, the durability was the reason to go with Ezzy for the last 3 sets. Light is great, but if they only last 1 Euro season, you can't even sell them for a bit more. I will say, as a previous Ezzy sailor, that this whole thing with light, there's a bit of a misconception with the Ezzies, because when they first were coming out in the late 90s and through the 2000s, they were heavy, especially because they built them bomb-proof. Like they were like, I saw a guy, I think it was last season, out on an Ezzy. I reckon it was a 99 or a 98. So we're talking 26 years old sail, and it still looked almost new. Like, it was crazy. I'm not saying it would be as nice to sail as a modern sail, but they were built really, really well. But the new Ezzies are actually very light. In fact, when I made a video of switching over from the Ezzy to these carbon, the Ezzies were either the same or even a touch lighter than these Goyas, surprisingly. So they've also gone, and that's also been at the cost of durability. They are still one of the best built sails, but they're not as good as a 98 Ezzy. Like, there's no, it's just impossible. You can't,
you can't do it.
Yeah. But this thing that the Ezzies aren't as light, they're actually quite light now. So that's cool. But
again, that's what I was saying. It's consumer led. Ezzy have kind of, even though they've got this reputation for being the most durable sails, and again, I can't comment because I've never had one, but they've had to go down that light route, because the problem is you're getting smashed by everyone going, oh yeah, but this one feels better. This one feels better on the testing, which it will do if it's lighter and thinner, because you get the stretch, you get that finer feel, and it just does feel better. But the longevity test is the big one that no one can really do apart from the consumer. And then when they go to buy another sail, are they then buying the heavy duty one? Some people definitely are, but the majority is not. The majority is buying the light one, which is why basically all the brands have gone that way.
Yeah. But I will say something for, about Ezzy too, since this brought up, but I'm really happy with these Goya sails. I was actually really happy with the Ezzy sails. I still think when you look at the Ezzy sail, the attention to detail is probably still above than even the Goya ones. It's not taking away anything from the Goya. They're totally fine. Like, I'm super stoked with it. But Ezzy, like, you go through the whole sail, and it's almost like it looks like like, you can tell that Dave Ezzy has kind of gone over it and is really like, I want it to be like this because that's my belief. And, this, you know what I mean? Like, he's very invested in that, in the sail personally. So I can sort of see the attention to detail there, but my God, there's a lot of comments coming through here. What's this? I think your project needs to dive into the second-hand market. Seabreeze Marktplaats. Marktplaats is a Dutch one, I believe. Polish online websites. We like to have fun. No need to buy new stuff. Happy to buy a 2020 board. Yeah, and look, Benno, I've said that heaps of times. If you buy gear from the past 10 years or whatever, you're buying essentially very modern gear. And plus, you can still buy a sail from the early 2000s or a board that works completely fine. So you don't have to buy the latest and greatest or anything like that. So yeah, secondhand, especially for anyone who's getting into the sports?
We're going to do that. We're going to do it. We're going to do it live. And I think we'll just go onto the secondhand markets and we'll just have a look, see what we can find, see if we just for fun, you know, because the thing is, when you're sponsored, you know, the brands that sponsor you, they want secondhand stuff to get sold because the guys that are selling it then have money and they want to buy new stuff. So, you know, it's like it does complement everyone. You know, there is a place for everything and there are some great deals. Not everyone has the money to buy the new stuff. You know, I think that secondhand market is interesting. It's like we talked about it on the last podcast about, you know, I've got two sisters and they love going into secondhand stores and trying to find a bargain of clothes. And they've got money to buy new stuff. But the fact that they found these bargains and stuff, it's kind of almost exciting. So
and like, you know, it's always comes up. People say, "Oh, windsurfing's so expensive," and da 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 da. But if you know what you're looking for, and you're willing to trawl through secondhand sites, you can absolutely find bargains on there. You know, like people, you know, like you can make a whole setup for not a lot of money if you're willing to spend the time to look around. So yeah, secondhand's awesome. I think, even though I'm not buying much secondhand at the moment, but Max, I'm 60 kilos. And use 3742 4753 and an 80-liter wave board. Oh, okay. So this is Max before. I was asking, was it? Yeah. I basically never use the 5.3. Would 374 455 make more sense, or are these sizes to add to the others? If you're 60 kilos, again, it depends where you're sailing and what the wind is. 60 kilos is light. So yeah, I would have thought a 5 meter is definitely a relatively big sail for a 60 kilo person. But again, it really depends on what your conditions are.
Yeah. If you say you've not used it much, I would just look at, it's like having a storm sail. It's like you might not use it much, but when you need it, you need it. Do you need a 5.3? Maybe not at 60 kilos. You might get away with a good 5.0 and then it's close to the 4.7. But if you do need that 5.3, then maybe you're only using it a few times, but maybe it's super useful. So, and again, if you're doing float and ride, it's totally different. Like you won't need the 5.3. If you're doing float out and the winds kind of cross shore, cross off, you won't need the 5.3. But if you're doing more onshore stuff, then having a big sail makes a big difference. But I would say that 60 kilos of 5.0 would be plenty big enough. But again,
it's interesting. It's interesting because he's saying obviously the 3.7's the same in both quivers, but it's either a 4.2, 4.7, 5.3 or a 4.4.
Sorry, I'm just sorry, I misread that. Yes, okay. No, but that actually does make more sense. Yes, sorry, the yes.
No, but yeah, but what do you reckon? Like, what would I mean? I
5.0.
Yeah. I mean, at 60 kilos, I would have thought that would be. Yeah, because it's also, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a jump from a 4.7 to 5.3, but that's kind of a bigger jump.
No, but I think the big thing here would be the difference between the 3.7, the 4.0 at 60 kilos. Those differences become way bigger. So, you know, at the moment you've got those big jump from 3.7 to 4.2. You know, again, it depends how overpowered you get on your 3.7. If you're happy with the 3.7 being your smallest, then I would say the 4.0 makes a lot of sense. If you're using that 4.0 type of sail a lot. If you're not using the 4.0 and you're using your 4.5 more, then weirdly the 4.2, 4.5 can make a lot of sense because, you know, you're using it. It really depends on where you live and what you use the most of and where you're comfortable. But I would imagine if 60 kilos, that 3.740 is a nice one to have in that tight sort of section. Like when I go to Cape Town, it's really cool for me to have that 4.2, 4.5, 4.7 because they're my most used sails. And you know, having those minimal distances between them, it's really good. You know, a 4.2 and a 4.5 you can use for nearly, you know, a lot of the windy days.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on your personal situation, but I like the sound of that second one. I can imagine you can't use a 5.3 that much. And then you still got a 5.0 as your biggest.
And it depends where you're sailing. Is it are we talking actual wave sailing or bump and jump? Yeah, because you're saying it's 60 kilos and an 80-liter wave board. That would be, in wave sailing, that would be considered quite a large board for your weight. So that would be another thing I would be looking at. If your most used sail is a 4.2 and 4.7, say, I'm assuming that you're talking about 20 knots plus, 20 to 25 knots. So if it is 20 to 25 knots and you're 60 kilos, I would probably start thinking about maybe making that wave board maybe closer to a low 70s or 70s sort of liter wave board.
Yeah,
but I don't know. What do you think about that? Oh, here we go. What's this?
Well, that's what Marco says.
Okay.
They come 60 kilos and also have a 3.4. And I would have thought, it depends where you live, but that kind of seems fair to me. That's probably like me being on a 4.0. But with the real improvement for me was getting a 68-liter wave board. So I would, again, what Paul was saying there and what Marco has said here, it does make sense. And you can get sometimes those small boards relatively cheap if you just want to experiment with them, a secondhand one, getting something small. But the big difference you'll find is I went out the other day here on the 99 and the wind picked up, but it was low tide. It was super choppy. And what you find is when you're on a big board for what yourself, which is 20 kilos more, 20 liters more than my weight, so 80 kilos, 99 board, 19 liters above my weight. What you notice is if it's choppy and hard work, when you've got so much rail and volume in front, it's really hard to drive the board. When it's a bit smoother, you can get away with a big board really easily, and it's nice. But as soon as you're fighting with smaller waves or chop, then the board gets thrown around a little bit and kind of controls you. And as soon as I moved onto the smaller board, the day was just a different day. So, yes, the newer boards, the bigger boards, you can use bigger boards because they're more maneuverable now. But don't think that, a smaller board won't tick a lot of boxes as well, because there is times and places to have those smaller boards or closer to your volume weight in kilos or your liters in kilos.
Yeah, I think if you just have one board, Benny, I think when you get into wave, if you're really into it, you tend to have at least two boards. You have sort of like a higher wind and a lower wind or something. But if you have if you've got one board, and let's say, for example, we'll use Max's example where he's 60 kilos. What do you think, or for that matter, anybody? What do you think's the sweet spot, or what's the formula for what the volume should be to their weight? Just roughly. I mean,
but you can't do that, because if you're in Pozo, I would say go your volume in weight, because it's windy all the time. You're always playing it. It's there's no light wind patches. If you're doing a bit more, light wind stuff, if you're trying to just be an all-rounder in all winds, I think you can get away with maybe 12. I think an 80-kilo guy, if you're not like expert level, you're just decent level and you want some comfort of volume, then having 10 to 12 liters, 8 to 12 liters, that kind of sweetie spot there. So for what we're saying, Max here, 60 kilos, he's got an 80-liter now, maybe something like a 72, something, which got some volume, but it's not crazy low, he's only light. He might get more mileage out of that.
Yep.
Whereas 20 liters is good. If he's sailing in lighter winds or it's a bit patchy or gusty, maybe he's fine, because, the 80-liter boards have still got relatively small rails. When you size up, it's not just a case of weight and kilos sizes up, because everything grows and things do change. Rockers have to change, like the bigger boards have to be flatter. When you're lighter, you can get away with more rockered boards because of the weight and how much you're pushing it into the water. So there's quite a few little nuances.
Yeah. I know, but as a general rule, I would have sort of said the same. Something around 10 liters more as just an absolute rough figure gives you probably a pretty safe bet for.
If you've got power, if you've got power, and if you have a lot of power, then you obviously can come down.
Yeah, I guess I'm talking about if the wind is like 20 to 25 knots, like this kind of wind, or 18 to 25. You got some wind, so it really depends, Max, on where you sail. But yeah, I do think going down a board size at some point might be interesting, because you'll find that when you go for a board, say 20 odd liters more than your weight, and if you are in 20 to 25 knots plus, you'll actually find it easier to be on a slightly smaller board. It's actually harder, even though because when you start, you think bigger boards easier, more volume, more float. But once you start getting into higher winds, you've just got more board that's slapping around, and it's actually harder to control in general.
Bottom turn, if you bottom turn in, it's just, there's a lot more pressure kind of corking you back up out of the water.
Yeah. Back to this rigging, we're talking about crunching. Our lard saying, especially de-rigging with camber, people releasing the downhaul at once, cambers punch through the sleeve. Yeah. Actually, well, camber sails.
Mine don't punch through the thing, but I do just do it the old magic. It goes,
yeah.
You're not meant to do that, but I kind of do it.
Yeah, okay.
Feels pretty cool.
If you compare the windsurf market with car market, here in Australia, all mechanics say buy a secondhand Toyota as P-plater. Would be interesting what brand in windsurfing has this reputation.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I think especially with boards, because sails, I mean, okay, so like I said, Essie, good reputation, although everything's just
Essie have definitely got that reputation for sure.
Yeah,
but they've carried it through.
Yeah. But with the boards, I would actually say one of the big factors is production runs sometimes, because there can be instances where a board is produced in a factory, maybe less so these days because maybe the quality control is better. But I know in the past, there's been certain brands and models where, they seem to have a reputation for having a problem, and then the word gets out and everyone's like, oh, don't buy that one because it's, they had some dodgy run or something like that. I'm not so sure about currently. Maybe the quality control is better or something, but
yeah, no, it's interesting you say that, because Simmer obviously started out, well, not obviously, but I know they started out in a Chinese factory. Again, doesn't matter the name, but they're in a Chinese factory, and they got the pre-production boards. We couldn't break them; they were absolutely solid. But when the production came out, there was a few issues. So Simmer, damage control had to literally change factories. So that is when they ended up in Kinetic, which is where the Mistrals were made at the time. And then since then, FMX, Future Fly, there's a few boards obviously being made over there now. And since then, we've not had a problem. But still, I hear people telling me where the 2 years or whatever it was when they were made in Jinli, they say, oh, I had a Simmer, it didn't last. And, bear in mind, the Simmer have been making them now in Kinetic for, fucking hell, I don't even know, over 10 years maybe or something like that, but it's crazy how that reputation kind of follows. Now I'd probably say Simmer's got probably one of the best constructions I've ever been on, from that factory, but still there is that reputation from those couple of years at the very beginning.
Yeah, well, it's the same when we talk about Essie. I mean, we're basically that reputation is coming from the starting in the 90s, even though it's a bit different now. But yeah, it's interesting actually, isn't it? That's where I guess brands have to be so careful managing their production. I mean, in Australia, I don't know what it's like overseas, but in Australia, Toyota has this super strong reputation as being the reliable brands. It's just,
and they're probably changing, aren't they? They're probably engines are getting shit. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that complain and say, "Oh, they're not as good as they used to be," but I think that they're still arguably better than a lot of the competition, even though that's also because the competition also have their problems, But in Australia, Toyota is just like, you can literally say some of the secondhand Toyotas hardly lose any value. It's crazy in Australia. It's
same here. I went to look at buying a Toyota like Land Cruiser type thing.
Oh yeah, those things. Yeah,
and you look at the price; they don't go down. Whereas other brands, are dropped a lot.
Like in Australia, sometimes they go up. Like they'll literally buy new for 80, and then people are selling them second for 100 because you can't buy it. Like they're sold out at the Toyota dealership and stuff. So but I don't know. It's a tricky one. I think with the brands, but
it's very difficult because it's not a car. You're not judging an engine It's much easier with cars to do that. In going back to that original question, if a sail, you could say, oh, buy an Essie, for example, buy an Essie, and some guys treated it like shit, and hammered it to shred, and you buy it, and you're like, oh, you thought you said buy an Essie, it's all broke. It really depends on how it's been looked after, because modern day materials, a lot of the brands are all using very similar materials, if they've got good guarantees on their stitching and stuff like that, then I think it's probably worth
and look,
how many times have you seen a sail fail on stitching? It just doesn't happen. So I think there's not too much in it at the moment. Certain brands will, I think you've got to look who you're buying it from.
And the other thing too is, I mean, we're talking about sales, but if you're in a shop and they have 2 or 3 different brands, if you roll them out on the floor, actually go from top to bottom and have a look at the sail. Like, have a look, what sort of pulley are they using? Is it plastic? Is it stainless steel? Look at the eyelets. Like, look at all the stitching along the battens. Is it pretty straight, or is it all wonky? Or, like, I mean, you could sort of tell a bit by just looking at the, gives you a feel for the quality 100%. Control, like,
especially if you look at it back to back with some other sail, makes a big difference.
Have a close look, because you can actually, it's interesting. If you actually pay a bit of attention, you can sort of pick up some of these things. Ordinary Swedish windsurfer. I would love to make a test. 10 sails, 5 to 10-year-old. What's good? What's still modern, or what's not so good? There's so many sails out there that that would be cool, man. If make a video or something, put it on YouTube. What's it? Martin says, I remember the Tushingham sails in the 90s was super light but didn't last 5 minutes. I never used Tushingham. Did you, Benny? Is that true? Do they have a reputation for being not very reliable or something? Or?
I think they went through swings and roundabout, like different years, different things. It covers such a wide amount of years. Like, I can see some shitty ones that I've used and some better ones, and it's a long time over a big period. You'd need to be very specific to say, oh, that one was rubbish, because it does change year to year. Model to model, I guess. Certain sails, Neil Pride Vortex or something, like is a Neil Pride sail back in the day, but it was their cheap entry level one. So if you just went on the brand, like we talked about before, like Toyota, the Toyota Land Cruiser compared to the Toyota Yaris, or or whatever it might be, there's a huge difference of build quality because of the price points. So sometimes you can't just say, oh, that brand did this good sail, because if you take their entry level sail, it might be made to a real price point, whereas their more high end sail, or the heavy duty sail, like in Simmer we have like the HD, the Legacy, or whatever it's called, which is the more reinforced version. So if you're judging longevity and you look at that sail, it's obviously going to do better than the sails that are made lighter and for more lightness and feel, rather than durability. They're all made to be a certain durability, obviously, but some are made durability almost alone.
Windy Days Dave is just commenting, winds are light in my area most of the time. I use a 6 and 7 mostly, sometimes larger 8.1. I hardly get to use my sails. So obviously, and he's 66 kilos, so obviously pretty light wind, but that's how it goes. Dave. Yeah. Windy Days Dave. But I mean, look, you can still have...
Dave, that's a good name for someone he's optimistic. I like it.
Billy, 1996. When planning a wave quiver, you also have to think about the mast you need. Note too that a 4.7 needs a 4-meter mast, whereas a 4.5 tends to go on a 370. Yeah, look, that's a good point, especially if you're on a budget, because the mast can cost...
Your 4.7 needs a 4-meter. Wow. What brand's that?
Well, also, this is a 4.5 tends to go on a 370.
Yeah, that's normal. But it depends. My 4.7 rig's on a 370, but it's interesting. I think, there a few brands have done that, because sometimes now wave sailing, some guys don't have bigger than 4.7 because of that. Because they don't want to have that 4-meter mast. But as interestingly, you need a 4-meter mast to rig the 4.7, which, But a lot of riders do have a 4-meter mast, but there are some, definitely with the winging taking over the light winds, that have basically got a wave sailing quiver of 4.7 and down, because they basically don't go wave sailing unless it's 4.7 weather. You know, in the UK, 4.7 weather is kind of when it gets, 5.0 is good, but 4.7, it's like that sweet spot for most average size riders, or average size, my size. I guess I'm quite light.
I've got a question for you, Benny. What would you rather choose, a brand new sail with a 10-year-old mast, or a brand new mast with a 10-year-old sail?
The first one, old mast and a brand new sail.
Oh, the old mast. Okay.
Yeah.
So you feel like the masts haven't changed as much as the sails, or yeah, okay.
Not really. Like, I've got 10-year-old mast probably in the garage, and I don't think you'd know that much.
Yeah,
difference.
maybe 10, maybe 10. Okay, let's go 20 years. No, I guess what I'm trying to say is
20 is good as well. But I know what you mean. There is a point. Like, we've had such good masts for ages now.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah,
they've all been pretty good. But I know what you mean. If we're talking slalom, and if you're talking, would you want, basically a shit mast or a good mast, then I'm picking the good mast and an older sail. But what I don't want is a sun-beaten sail, because I don't mind having an older design sail, but what I don't want is one that has been cooked for like 5 years in Australia or something, because then it's just a pain in the ass.
The reason I asked that question is because now I've been blessed with all this gear. I got this 100% mast, which a lot of brands now have, like 100% carbon mast. And I never had one before. Like, I had the Ezzy mast before, which is 91% or whatever. But yeah, I've actually found that those 100% masts, or anything close to that, are pretty sweet. Like, they definitely make a difference to the rig, to the point where I'm like, geez, this is like it's
it's a huge
difference. Big factor, isn't it? Like, it's
your question was probably not formulated right, but if I answer it, what makes the biggest difference? The mast makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And and I go into sell mode here, but I was speaking to someone the other day. I really think, for me, with my little peewee hands, the narrow boom, it was the biggest game changer for me.
As well, yeah.
Because that having the narrow grip, again, I've not got massive paddle hands, but that narrow grip just made everything feel lighter, because it's the one thing you're in contact with, and it's just like a game changer. I had some of the early ones, which was like the Techno Limits. Now, they were one of the first ones to do narrow booms, but for me, that was just epicness. Like, it just made such a difference. Hawaiian Pro Line, I had some narrow booms then, but as soon as I got those booms, big difference. But the mast as well, if you've got a soggy mast which has got no recoil or no nothing, and you put it in the sail can feel horrible, like horrible, if your mast is bad. But again, I've had 100% or close to carbon mast for a long time now. They've been doing them a while.
Yeah, I guess that's where my question wasn't formulated very good, because you've been using it. But for me, this is a relatively new thing, going with one of those masts. And I have to say, they're pretty good. Oh, here we go. Max has commented, thanks for all the good tips. I sail bump and jump onshore in Sweden, mostly 4.2 and 3.7, and sometimes 4.7. Yeah, I mean, bump and jump onshore. When it's a bit onshore, you do find that you want a board with a slightly more literage, just to help you get off the beach. And just because it's onshore, you kind of need a bit more float. So that does kind of make sense that you're on a slightly bigger board. But again, I was going to say, if you are mostly on a 4.2 and 3.7, that's sort of indicating that it's pretty windy. So I'd probably still recommend that, if you get the chance, try a smaller literage board and see how you go.
Yeah, but I was going back to his sail choices before. He was saying 3.7, 4.0, 4.5. If he's using 3.7, 4.2 a lot, he has to realize how much he's using that 4.2, because the 4.2 could be the sweet size.
Yeah,
if the 4.2 is the sweet size, because he says sometimes 4.7, then that you could end up with 3.7, 4.2, 4.5, because you use the 4.5 and the 4.2 a lot. He has to work out what he's going to use a lot of. To work out that size. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Billy, a quiver that goes 4.7, 4.2, and 3.7 can mean 3 masts. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, or you know, you
But
know, you get the mix and match systems as well. Yeah.
but that's not a good. I agree with you, but I don't know many 4.7s that rig on 400s at the moment, or is it just Simmer that don't have that? Because I'm not used to that. But I know what he means, and usually though the good thing is with obviously a 3.7, it's not ideal, but they should have a varial top on them so you can rig it on a 370 mast, which again is not ideal, but if it saves you buying a new mast and it's not the end of the world on the smaller sizes, I think you can get away with it.
Yeah, that is an interesting point actually. A 4.7 on a 4 meter. That does sound like a relatively big mast for that size sail. I'm just having a quick look.
I don't know, like it's not that big, but it must be a narrow sail. Maybe it's a 5-batten sail or something. But usually the 4-batten sails are all on 370s. I would, maybe it's like I said, or maybe I'm simmering out.
Yeah, I'm just having a 4.7. Oh yeah, so in the Goya Bonsai 11, they're saying to go for a 370 bottom and a 4 top. You know, this mix and match thing. So yeah, it's still okay. It's got a 4-meter luff on it, so you probably could use a 370, but then you'd need 30 centimeters of extension. So it's a bit, yeah. Anyway,
so am I going mad? What's Cimarron then? I was sure it was kind of, I should know, but I thought it was like 24, 25.
Ordinary Swedish windsurfer is saying, Ben, who designed Simmer free ride board? Is it Ola?
Well, it depends which ones, because there's been a few different ones, but yeah, he has done a few of them.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they were the slalom board was done by Aurelio quite a while ago, but still relevant and works super good.
Yeah. Martin's chimed in regarding the ideal board size. The guys in the Goya factory in Maui say the ideal board size should be 6 kilos of your weight in kilos. Okay, like 6 liters over you. I'm assuming. Is that what you're saying?
Again, it depends how windy it is, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, on Maui.
Yeah.
Well,
it depends if you're sailing hoop keeper in the light stuff.
Yeah, but. It's as Ben said, it very much depends on where you're sailing and what
and your skill level.
Billy 906, the board volume you need also depends on usual sailing spot. With currents and white water, you need more volume. Definitely
4.7, 394. Yeah, so 24 centimeters.
Yeah. Billy saying that's not true about Tushingham. The rocks are still going strong.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. It depends on the model and the
Bob
year.
Wobbler. Yeah, he's still got his Tushingham, so that's going strong. That's good to see. Turnell, I have found that using less flexi fins than most waveboards ship with, I can take sail one size smaller. With 100 kilos, I can feel the soft fin bending through slowing me down, especially onshore. Yeah, that's interesting. So that is a good point that we didn't bring up. And this is going back to you, Max, but fins are the next thing that is an important factor, because obviously the sail is the power source. The fin gives you the lift, and that can make quite a big difference to what size sail size you're using and the board sizes and so forth. So that's something else that if you get the opportunity is to play around with fin sizing as well. It can be sort of interesting. But, Tennell's saying I found that using less flexi fins or stiffer fin than most wave or ship, I can take one sail size smaller. Yeah, so obviously when you use a stiffer fin, it's giving you more lift, which that means you need less powerful sail to get the same effect. Will that be correct, Benny?
Well, it's not necessarily more lift, because sometimes a flexi fin can create lift, but it depends. Depends on what fin, what fin it is. If it's flexi and it's not doing anything, it's just losing power. Yeah, maybe. maybe you can drive more with the board, just press off it.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, anyway, Max, the fins are really interesting. Billy's saying several brands set their 4.7s on a 4-meter mast.
It's not probably 5-batten sails. Yeah, Severn blade. Yeah, blades. Is blade 5 still 5-batten, I think?
Yeah, the blade's the 5-batten.
Yeah, so it's like a more high aspect sail, so narrower and taller. So that would make sense. You know, with the 4-batten sails or the 3-batten sails or some of the newer school one, they usually rig a bit shorter, a bit wider. Obviously not every brand, but I would imagine having a 4.0 for a 3.7 does count you out of a few things.
Marion Bauer, I switched to a slim carbon boom and it was a game changer. My 5-meter sail is still holding up, but I'm thinking of moving to a carbon mast. Will the feeling be similar to the boom upgrade, lighter and powerful? So hold on, I'm thinking of moving to a carbon mast. So what if it's not a carbon mast, what would it be?
Probably maybe a higher percentage carbon mast.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. Because I can't imagine too many people got like a fiberglass mast or an aluminium mast these days. But yeah, look, basically, been a long time actually since I've used a carbon mast that's less than around 90%. But the higher the carbon percentage, the quicker the mast will sort of come back into shape. You know, like it'll bend in a gust, and you get a more of a sort of springiness, sort of lively feel with a higher carbon content. And that basically means that the sail is easier to control. It breathes easier, or you know, it basically can just handle gusts better. It feels lighter. It handles better.
I mean, what you will find though, it make a bigger difference on your bigger sizes. So like in the smaller sizes, when we're talking that 3.7s and stuff like this, there are a few guys, and Paray is one of them, that uses the Simmer SX8, which is the 80%, so it's got more epoxy in it. And that gives it a more softer feel. So in the smaller sizes, sometimes they like that softer. It doesn't want to be so nervous and twitchy. Again, I'm trying to use words which give you an idea of how it feels. It, you know, it's not so crazy, but in the bigger sizes, you definitely notice a difference. So as you go into that 5.0, 5.3, 5.6, that higher carbon content feels lighter, and it especially makes a bigger difference, I think. This is my personal opinion anyway.
Yeah, and actually you just mentioned something, because I said I haven't used anything much less than 90%. I just realized I've actually got the 80% mast as well. It also depends, Marion, if you're sailing a spot that's way offshore and like you say wave sailing on some sketchy reef, then you may want to go for a mast that's say around 80% or whatever, you know, 90% to give you a bit more strength, you know, because I think that the 100% carbon mast technically could be just as strong, but you do have to be careful also when you're rigging up that you don't bang it on a rock, or like they're a bit more, you just have to be a bit more careful that you're not damaging the mast, you know. But generally, if you're coming from a mast that's say a 40 or 50% carbon mast, and you go to say at least an 80 or 90%, it's a definite upgrade that is, if you can afford it, probably would recommend it. I mean, it's, yeah. Do you think, Ben? I mean, it's. I mean, once you're in, if you're really into windsurfing,
it depends what you're switching from, like, and how much.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, but if it's like a 40% or 50% mast, and you went to 80 and 90, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah,
and you can afford it. You know, I know it comes down to money, but
just swing weight as well. Just
especially
5.0, you will definitely feel it. If you felt the boom, like for me, the boom was game changer, but the mast, I've always had pretty good mast, so you know, I've probably not noticed it as much because I haven't had to make that switch. But I know nearly everyone who has made a switch like that will feel it.
Yeah, sure. And it's all the ingredients of a rig, you know, as the boom, sail, extension, the whole thing. But then, if you go from say a 40 or 50% mast to say a 90 or 100, you might save 300-400 grams. So I mean, maybe more. I don't know. Like there's quite a few bit of a weight saving. So if you add up the carbon boom, the mast, and before long, you've just saved yourself close to 1 kilo in weight, or you know, potentially. Maybe not that much, but you know what I mean. Like that can be, that's quite good, huh?
It'll last you. They're like, I've got masts
yeah.
here, which I don't know how old. I haven't sold them. I just keep them. But they last for bloody ages if you look after them. You know, it's not like, you know, like the old days where masts were snapping left, right, and center, or it's not like a race mast, which has got thin walls and they leave them under high tension. You know, if you've got wave sail, is that what we're talking about? Wave sail, or are we talking about maybe it's just free? You know, as long as there's not mega tension on it, that mast will outlast anything.
Yeah.
You know, it just, they don't snap like twigs anymore.
Yeah, but like I said as well, Marion, is that if you want to make the mast last a long time, just be like, don't just drop it on the ground, like, you know, because people throw their mast on the ground to rig up, and it's just hit a rock, and all of a sudden there's a little microscopic crack in there, and so if you just basically treat it with respect, then, you know, there's no reason why you can't get 10, 15 years out of a mast, I reckon. Like, you know, it's
easy.
Well, yeah, you know, so it's not that cheap, but if you break it down year to year, it ends up being a pretty good deal, you know, I think. Here we have Max again. It really sounds like I need to look at a new board. I'm trying to improve my wave riding, and if I'm slightly overpowered, I'm getting the feeling of skipping on top of the water more than carving.
Yeah. Go smaller, man. Because if you're 60 kilos, you're on 80, you know, liter board, that's 20 above your weight, which will be fine if it's smooth and, you know, relatively light, or if it's smooth in general. But if it's kind of choppy, and especially if you're overpowered, you're going to struggle to get that thing around the corners, because you just can't physically get your weight to drive the rail down and drive it around the turn. So, you know, if you can find, like, you know, some secondhand small board, because usually you can find those small boards. They're not easy to sell for a lot of people. So I don't know how that's affected actually in the market these days, but there was a point where they were going so cheap.
So what do you reckon if he's going to end up looking for a new board? Like, we're going to say, you know, maybe around the 70 to 72 liter kind of mark, you reckon, or
is he keeping the 80? You know, it depends, because if he's keeping the 80, you could go smaller. If you're not keeping the 80, maybe you could go 72, you know, which is still relatively big for your size, but it's not, but it might be the sweet spot. You're still getting rid of 8 liters, which is quite a chunk.
If he keeps the 80, then what would you suggest? What size?
I think it really depends. We should have a look for. We'll have to have a look for him at some point. We'll have to go on social media onto these sites and see if we can find something. It'd be funny to kind of do that.
Yeah, but like roughly sort of size. Yeah, because we're saying 70, 72.
Yeah, but usually, as far off the top of my head, I know there's a lot of boards around 68, 69. It seems to be a board, a literage that people quote, although there's not so many recently, but I know there used to be. And then in that 72, 73 area, I seem to, just off the top of my head, remember brands having a board at that size. I don't remember too many boards being 70, even though 70 could be the sweet spot. I think you just won't find one at 70. So which is why I'm mentioning 72, 73 and 68, 69. I just seem to have those volumes in my head. But it really depends on what you can find. You know, beggars can't be choosers kind of thing. And if you want to buy a new one, it's totally different. But if you're buying a secondhand one, it's more what's on the market, what you can get for your money.
Yeah, and under 70 liters, I can't imagine there's a lot of choice, is there?
There used to be loads, because there was a point where everyone was getting rid of their small ones, and then no one seems to buy small ones anymore. So maybe it's one of those markets where you think it would be cheap because no one wants them, but because there's a few people that want them, there's few on the market that actually, you know, hold their price or something.
Yeah. Billy has he's really scouring the internet.
I didn't know that. I'm learning something new today, because if you'd have asked me, okay, what side do most 4.7s rig on? Because of my experience with Simmer and with other brands that I've had experience with, it's like a 370, but it was on the higher end. I just looked on the black tip now, which is the main sale for us, and it rigs on 24 centimeters on a 370 4.7. So you're thinking, okay, that's still on the 3.7. But listen, looking at this, it says the Hero rigs on a 4 meter as well, which has really surprised me. I really wouldn't have thought that. So that's interesting.
Tanel, if using small sails more than 2 times a year, get that 340 mast. I still remember the change in comfort putting 340 in my 3.5 the first time.
Yeah,
It became my favorite setup. Yeah. Now, mast is huge.
The whole sail feel nice.
Yeah, the mast. It is a bit painful because if you buy a relatively new high percentage carbon mast, it's not cheap. Like they're not. Can be, for someone getting the sport, they're probably thinking, God, I'm going to spend that much money on a mast, but it's probably one of the best investments you can make for the amount of time you get out of it. It's just, you buy that one mast, you take care of it, and it'll last you a hell of a long time. So, yeah, if you can do it. Max, here we go. So we're getting more information from Max. I need to stomp the back foot really hard to get the board to turn in the bottom two.
Yeah, I think you need a smaller board, dude.
Here we go. Look at this. Do I need 2 wave boards?
No, but you probably don't. Like if you're, again, you'd need to use. I think you probably get away with 1, and you will get the benefit if you can find a 72-liter wave board or something like that. Because
I think
again, I don't know of your level, but that's 12 liters above your weight. Again, I'm not as small as you, so I don't know how it affects it, but I would imagine you could use that board. It will just be way more maneuverable. It's just whether you're going to go out in lighter stuff and you like the comfort of having 20 liters extra. Because again, I've got a 99-liter wave board. I don't use it all the time, but when I do use it, I get out in some really light stuff, and it maximizes all my sessions. So it depends on where you live. And if you think you're going to miss out on sessions because of that 80-liter, if you think you can get away with the 72, you're going to get all the benefits.
Well, it says here, if it's light, I'm usually riding my medium slalom board with 7.8 and 6.5. So he's got a light wind setup for that.
Yeah. So if you're fully planing around, then and it's cross on, it's not bolt onshore, and you've got a bit of angle on the waves. That's 72 style board. I'm saying 72 because Simmer have this Flywave 72. For me, it was one of my favorite boards I ever went on. Like, all the Flywaves are good, but that 72 felt just so bloody good. It turns so well. I just know that's a sweet board. And then you're thinking, so I've got that in my head. But again, I don't know where you are or, what access you've got to whatever boards there are.
Yeah. Shred Ward is also 60 kilos and says he uses a 69 and an 83 liter. So that's
yeah. So he's got his big board for the lighter stuff, the more onshore stuff where he can just wobble around. He can get plane in. He can, and then as soon as there's a bit of power in the wind, gets on the 69. I can see that.
Yeah, but look, Max, if you're saying that you use mainly a 3.7 and 4.2, that's basically indicating it's pretty windy, and I'd just go for like 72 liter. I reckon that's if you're using mainly a 3.7 4.2. If that's sounds like to me that'd be the go. Billy says the other time we care about sail sizes and rig weight is when planning a quiver to take on a plane, because the transport charges have gone up so much. Yeah, no, definitely. Any way you can save weight there makes the whole, and not just the cost, but even just dragging the gear around the airport or, lifting it onto a roof rack on a car or whatever, it all adds up. So, yeah, no, that's cool.
Max is West Coast Sweden. That's like Simmer style. That's where they are. Get that 72 Flywave. Get it on.
Go visit. Can you visit the office and get a deal?
Like Surfers. Is it Surfers? The shop there. Surfers. Big windsurfing shop.
There we go. Look, Simmer is really common here. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, that's cool, Max. We've just got, because we went through this whole this issue with talking about sales, but we were actually talking about Sylt. Should we just quickly go back to that?
I think we've lost that train. I think
we've lost it. Okay.
2.5 hours. I might have to go and sort the baby.
I thought we were just getting started because we'll have to do another one, or at least talk about the wave, because we didn't even get onto the waves.
Yeah, you got to remember though, I'm going to Sylt, so I'm going to be doing a lot of Sylt talking when we get to Sylt. I was just doing a little preview, but we were going to go on the waves. We should mention it. Top of the men's wave at the moment, Mark Paré.
We can do this real quick.
About the waves. Mark Paré and Marcilio Brown level on points at the moment, a first, a second, and a fourth. And obviously that's the big talking point. Obviously other guys are going to have a say. Costa, he's up there in third place. We've got Victor still, consistent, Marino, but definitely the talk at the moment is between Paré and Brown, level on points. So that is already interesting. I think, obviously we've got Sylt left and Maui. Paré is going to need to put a good performance in Sylt because obviously Marcilio Brown beat him in that Maui event earlier in the year when they had some wind and jumping. Mark was second and Brown was first. So it really is a great battle for the world title this year. And again, it could open up after Sylt because Sylt can throw up many different surprises. In the women, we've got Sarah Kita leading the rankings. And obviously, we've got Alexia Kiefer in second, Sol de Greek in third. I mean, that's amazing. Maria Morales. Cool. Look at the young girls. They're really pushing hard. You've got some really young talent pushing in second, third, and fourth there. So really good to see.
Justina's doing good in fifth.
Yeah. I haven't actually seen the individual results and how it's all working.
Yeah. So I would have liked to have gone through all the ladies as well because some of these names I'm also a bit ignorant about, but we can do that another time.
We can do another one. I'm definitely going to be doing that from Sylt. We're going to have looking at that forecast. We're going to have racing. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be doing a lot of talking. So we will have a lot of build up before it looks like the waves are going to kick off. If you have just tuned in, we looked at the weather forecast earlier. Sylt looks pretty solid towards the end of the week for wave sailing, but it looks like we're going to be kicking off with slalom by the looks of it. So that's me out. I got to go get some food, go see how the babies are doing.
No, thanks, Benny. Well, thanks again, guys. Until next time. Well, I look forward to Sylt, and it'll be interesting to see if that forecast comes in, or especially that 60-knot one.
Yeah, no, that could be crazy. If you didn't see the forecast earlier, there is a forecast. It's a long way away. 64 knots they're forecasting for the last day of competition in Sylt. So stay tuned. It will obviously be on the PWA channel, PWA TV. We're going to try to do some podcasts, but let's see how it all pans out. I've had a lot of promises recently. I haven't delivered on all of them. It's been a bit hectic, but thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks again to Mr. Paul Van Ballen over in Australia.
Thanks, guys.
And, if you want to see anything on the podcast, you want to get any subjects, any people, we are going to be getting people in again. Don't worry. It won't be just us chopping on for a little bit. Yeah, we're still pretty busy over this side, but Monty Spindler, we got to get that guy in. We got to get that guy in.
Talking about all the materials and sales, that'd be cool. Yeah, we need to get some more guests. We need to get some guests again, Benny. I like
hi ho. We want the hook in and hold on.
I've learned something tonight.
My mind has been blown. I didn't realize it was that. So yeah, stay tuned. World Cup coming up in Sylt, 64 knots. Bring it on.
Time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. The Cubs, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.